Hello.
Hello, everyone. You are welcome to today's event. We would wait for some few minutes for the others to join, especially our guests speaker and then the rest of the panel members. But as we wait, we can just type in the chat box your name and your organization and how you are feeling this morning. I'm excited about today's event. I don't know about you, but you can share with us, or you can express yourself in the chat box. You can use emojis or any other ways you want to describe how you are feeling this morning. Thank you. All right. Welcome once again, everyone. My name is Jasmine Edu with Hyperspace Innovation Hub, and I'm your coordinator for today's event. So today's event is AfriConEu Policy Roundtable discussion, and it's being hosted by Hyperspace. So Hyperspace is part of 11-member consortium implementing the AfriConEu project, which has received funding for the European Commission. And AfriConEu is creating the first transcontinental networking academy for African and European digital innovation hubs. So we are pleased to have you as a participant for today's event, which will bring together experts from Ghana, Tanzania, Uganda, and then Nigeria, and even in Europe to discuss policies that can support the innovation space in Ghana. And during this event, we delve into conversations about policy recommendations that can promote collaborations between Ghana and Europe and make the innovation ecosystem in Ghana more conducive to growth. So our esteemed speakers and participants from various countries will also share their insights and expertise on this topic. So we would encourage everyone to participate actively in the discussions and also share your perspectives on how policies can shape the innovation landscape in Ghana. And I believe together we can create an enabling environment for the innovation in Ghana and also foster collaboration between Ghana and Europe. So thank you once again for joining today's event. And we would move on with the program. So to start with, we'll take a presentation on the AfriConEu project by Promise. So Promise, you can unmute and then give us a presentation about what the AfriConEu project is all about. Thank you. Over to you, Promise.
Okay, morning to other people. Good afternoon to everyone in the Eastern Coast. We are 41 minutes past the afternoon. And just I can't share my screen.
Oh, sorry, just a minute.
I think I can.
All right, you can share your screen now.
So my name is Thomas. I am from Buni Innovation Space. We're an ecosystem builder in Tanzania, in that we help other hubs that are being established. We help other hubs that are being established, as well as we help create a pipeline for innovation hubs in Tanzania in terms of early stage pre-incubated stage startups. So we build the ecosystem from the ground up. We are part of AfriConEu, as just mentioned, from Tanzania, and AfriConEu aims to create the first transcontinental networking academy that supports European and African digital innovation hubs in capacity building, knowledge sharing, networking, collaboration, and joint venture development. So all this is to make sure that we have a bigger market for our startups, and they can have access to all the continents. The main aim, we do knowledge and experience sharing, and that's through the Networking Academy. We drive development in mutual beneficial partnerships. Already 11 partners in the consortium is quite a lot of partnerships. And we support creation of collective projects and that can boost economy, empowering youth, women, and fostering innovation and growth. This is through the Networking Academy and the flagship event that and we're discussing so the brokerage events, the capitalization events, the boot camps are all meant to boost digital economies and empowerment. If you want to look at it in a map, this is where all our partners are. As mentioned, it's 4 African partners from Africa and 7 from Europe, and that includes universities, universities such as Portugal Business School, SMEs such as the Big Stores, and hubs or R&D facilities out there. We are currently in phase 4 and in phase 5 for the policy roundtable. Phase 5 of the project, which is the relental aiming at communication. Results uptake in phase 4, community development and results uptake. My apologies. And of course, we're also doing the networking. The academy is still continuing. We still have a lot more activity coming up. We had 12 local workshops, 20 webinars, 8 masterclasses that are continuing. We finished in November our brokerage event. We're expecting in July and September to have boot camp in Tanzania, Uganda, Ghana, and Nigeria, and one capitalization event in Europe. So watch this space. A lot more exciting opportunities are going on. Our semantic areas from developing business models, the market access approach for partnership, technology transfer and innovative technologies, startups, financial support, and digital entrepreneurship skills development. So all the academy has been geared towards this with various approaches towards that. Oh, the sound is not clear. I don't know what else to do about this. I'm in a very quiet environment. Give me 2 seconds. Is that better? Da Costa?
Yes. Yeah, promise is really better.
Okay, my apologies. Okay, so that was it. So talking about the next, we're talking about, so registration to the academy is free, and please do feel free to reach out. It's on the website. We are in Eventbrite. You can find out all the events that are coming up on Eventbrite as well. On AfriConEu, you can follow us. Our social medias are also very active, and you can find out past events. And the best thing about the website as well is where you can find all the resources, and you can find the past activities that you can look with. All the resources are there, and we're hoping that other people can build upon what has already been done instead of replicate it. So that's AfriConEu. I hope to see you all in the next academy event. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Promise. Promise, kindly share the link in the chat so that on the call also visits the AfriConEu website. Thank you so much once again. All right, so moving on. So a state of play research was undertaken for the 4 African countries on the AfriConEu project, that is Ghana, Nigeria, Tanzania, and Uganda, with the goal of identifying the challenges and opportunities for strengthening the digital ecosystems in these countries, and also draft some recommendations. So we'll take the state of play report from Mr. Gideon Burful. So Gideon, over to you.
Hello, everyone. I hope that you are poised for activity today. I'm going to share with you some statistics that were gathered at the initial stages of the project that will set the tone for the discussion today. You see my screen? So we had a 6 months research, and that took place in Uganda, Ghana, and Tanzania. And 60 interviews were conducted. We had 4 roundtables to bring ecosystem leaders, policymakers together. And I'm happy to see that most of the people that responded to this are also here online. There's 2 surveys that were sent out. We got 300 respondents. And the final report has been captured at State of Play in Africa DI8 reports, the case of Nigeria, Uganda, Ghana, and Tanzania. Now, let me quickly run through some of the things that were captured. So we're going to look at the overview of the African innovation ecosystem, the impact of COVID-19, a big blow to the African ecosystem, the opportunities that are there to strengthen the Africa digital innovation ecosystem, and then, of course, recommendations that will pave way for Africa. To look at it from the angle of the markets that exist in an ecosystem, policies that drive the innovation, finance, access to finance is always a big thing, infrastructure, culture, and then human capital. Now, in terms of markets, what did we see? We saw that generally digital markets are growing, but the limiting factors are affordability and access, right? So if you look at the statistics on the right, you see that for the case of Ghana, we have 45% of internet penetration. That's a good thing to leverage on to push the digital market. So I'm looking forward to how people will share their opinions on how policies around these can really drive innovation in our space. But of course, there are also still digital gaps that exist for women in the rural areas. But what can we do to really bring women to speed and be inclusive in this regard? In terms of infrastructure, yeah, there are gaps that still exist. These seem to be fine, but in the rural areas, yeah, there are a lot of gaps that need to be filled. But what can be done from the policy angle to actually bring this down? It's an innovation house. We have them dotted across the 16 regions, but we also have a lot of functions regarding startups don't have money, and yet the hubs must also survive. So how do they innovate around this, and what policies can be in place to support the hubs to also serve the needs of the startups that they serve? You see that in Ghana, there are 36 plus active innovation hubs, but now we are talking about 54. But how do we train these people? How do we also streamline and standardize the things that they do? It's also part of the conversations that we want to hear. For finance, we see the financial injection on the African continent going up. But the question I keep asking is that, where is the impact of innovations? Where do we see it? And how can we capitalize on that? We also kind of increase the trade across the different borders. I'm sure maybe AFC, FTA is going to help this, but in terms of implementation, how is this going to be done? It would be great to also hear from our team of experts that will speak to it, what can be done in terms of the For instance, if we talk about e-health in Ghana, is receiving a lot of traction. What about the other sectors? How can they also position themselves to attract more funding? Is also part of the discussions. Policy is a big thing. What can we achieve without a good policy framework? In Ghana, the Startup Act has been set, but then how is it going to be passed at Parliament? How is it going to be implemented? How do we for its action? All these are things that I'm sure with the gurus in the room now who are even spearheading the Startup Act are going to share with us. Yeah, we saw that there were COVID relief funds that came and went to some people. Was this enough? What are the people using it for? Is it bringing about innovation? Is it pushing markets? What can be done? Culture is a big thing. You know that in terms of collaborating with EU, Ghana has a different culture, Africa has a different culture. How can we harness these two different cultures, learn from each other, and make the collaboration better? These are things that we also like to hear. For human capital, I think there's a lot to be said in that. Do we actually have the teams in the ecosystem? How can we use the educational system to support to develop by our ecosystem? These are all things that we want to hear from the discussions from the panel. So all these are things that we really look forward to, and I'm glad you are all here. Please just don't be a passive listener, be involved, contribute, and then ask questions so that we can all gather enough information that will go into recommendations that will give to policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gideon. Indeed, internet is really a challenge in Africa. We're breaking a bit, but we're able to follow through thankfully. And with these statistics shared, I'm really hopeful for the kind of discussion that will go on today on the call. Okay, so moving on, we'll look at enabling policies and in the innovation space in Ghana. Ghana has implemented several policies. I think Gideon even mentioned some, and these are really crucial for promoting growth in the innovation ecosystem. So we have Nashiru Salifu, who is the Principal Planning Officer of the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, MESTI. We have him to share on enabling policies in the innovation space in Ghana. So Nashiru Salifu, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you. Let me try sharing my screen. Can you permit me to share my screen, please?
You have been made a co-host. You can share your screen.
Okay, that's fine. So let me share. Can you see the screen?
Yes, please. We can see your screen.
Okay, so thank you very much. Yes, so I'll just want to take you through the innovation policy space in Ghana, give you a very broad overview of how the innovation ecosystem or space is working in Ghana. So I'll start with the systematic foundations of STI policy. So before we even start, we should all bear in mind that when the STI policy began taking explicit forms in the 1960s, the main reason was to make countries become competitive, was to build their economies and make them competitive. And that was when we saw what we call the mission-oriented programs like defense, space, and transport. And one example I would like to link to one of these mission programs is the GPS we used. You know, it was a defense program by the military. And through that, they were able to develop what we call GPS, and we are now applying it to various economic sectors and other solutions in our societies and economies. So that was how it started. Then it initially started through the linear science push model, where everything was about science, science, science. But today, we realize that innovation policy is very complex. It's not only science, you know how the interaction is, what we normally refer to as a triple helix model. You have academia, research, and you have governments all playing their roles to make the innovation ecosystem work. So we've now gotten to a stage where we have a very complex innovation ecosystem. And if we are playing in the space of the innovation ecosystem, we need to understand these complexities and see how we can make innovation happen for our countries and our nations. Now, I'll end this systematic foundation with what the US president, former US President Barack Obama said. He said, and I quote, "We know that the nation that goes all in on innovation today will own the global economy tomorrow. This is an edge America cannot surrender." That tells us that even in today's generation, we haven't shifted from the 1960s. The agenda is still to become competitive and then own the global economy. Now, let's see what is happening in the context of Ghana. We said every innovation space and policy is shaped by what we call the triple helix model. That's the popular, there are a lot of models, but this is the popular one. We have academia, government, and industry. And in Ghana, what we have tried doing is to model a triple helix model in the Ghanaian context. Now, if you look at this diagram, you see academia, where we have the public and private research institutions, the TVET institutions, the R&D institutions, and what have you. You have government, comes in with policies, tax incentives, public sector, investment, IP protection. And there are certain ministries or some ministries and entities that are supposed to provide that kind of government support to make the innovation ecosystem work. Then we come to industry. That's where you have the financial sector, the venture capital, the manufacturing companies, industry, and what have you. What I will refer to as the real sector, all their activities. However, one of the critical things that Ghana is lacking now is what would coordinate this innovation ecosystem, what we would normally refer to as innovation authority, an authority that will sit in the middle to coordinate all these actors to make innovation work seamlessly. And so as part of policy studies, if you see this diagram, it's one of the models we have developed that eventually we want to see or put in place an innovation authority to make sure that all these actors work together to make innovation happen. Other than that, it's going to be a difficulty. Now, if we look at the triple helix model and what we are supposed to do, there must always be a direction of innovation. And I have here what economists define as direction of innovation is the sum of all decisions individuals, not only individuals, firms, universities, governments make on which technology opportunities to pursue at any point in time. So what it means is that at any point in time, people are doing certain things, not only individuals, firms, industry are all doing things in a certain direction, and that becomes the direction of innovation. Now let's look at the peculiar context of Africa and Ghana. We had the various waves of industrial revolution, the first, the second, the third, and the fourth. Now, if you look at the first, I would still say that we still have some challenges. Most of the things we hear, when we hear most African countries or maybe Ghana, we say we are developing technologies or simple tools. Basically, it refers to what was happening in the first industrial revolution. You are trying to manufacture simple implements for agriculture and what have you. Now we had the second industrial revolution. Look at the time it happened. And during that time, it was the era of machines, automobile and what have you. We missed that. We're now in digital revolution came, and we are now in the fourth industrial revolution. And what I see, the direction now is the fourth industrial revolution, but it's in a certain context. When you take Europe and the industrialized countries, it doesn't mean that they have left the second and third industrial revolution per se. But what it means is that it's an add-on. Whatever you are doing in the fourth industrial revolution is enhancing what happened in the second and third industrial revolution. But one of the policy concerns we have from the ministry is that it looks like most of the innovation hubs, the tech hubs are gearing towards this fourth industrial revolution about not only the digital economy, the ICT-based innovation and what have you. The question is, if you, for instance, even build a platform that is supposed to do digital marketing, what are you going to market? You are going to end up marketing products that have been imported from maybe Europe or China. What it means is that, what are you doing when it came to the second industrial revolution? So the direction of innovation, yes, globally, is the fourth industrial revolution. However, in our context, you don't have to lose sight of the fact that second and third industrial revolution, we still need to deal with it. And that is one of the policy concerns I think we have. Now, when it comes to the direction of innovation, like we said, when you come to the fourth industrial revolution, it has ushered in what we call the era of the frontier technologies. And I'm going to just share with you the projections that have been made. Because when it comes to the frontier technologies, I mean, the World Trade Organization have estimated it to be about 350 billion as of 2018. And 2025, we have about 3.2 trillion. But what are the frontier technologies? It includes robotics, big data, solar, drones, AI, 5G, IoT, nanotechnology, blockchain, and what have you. Now, if you are going to take the direction of innovation in your country in terms of the fourth industrial revolution, and your focus is just maybe only on digital platforms, what happens to nanotechnology? We know what is happening when it comes to semiconductors and chips. They are becoming smaller through the technology of nanotechnology. You have blockchain, you have gene editing, you have 3D printing. All this, amounts to over $3.2 trillion by 2025. That is just about 2 years ahead of us. What are we doing as a country to take advantage of this particular projection and this particular economy? And so we need to shape the direction of innovation and see how we can take advantage of that. Now, I want us to look at numbers. So we'll look at what is happening globally, because we can't talk about innovation in Ghana without linking it to what is happening around the world. Because innovation is about competition. And whatever happens around the world has a bearing on what your innovation landscape looks like. If you look at the global stats on IP, now when you go to industrialized countries, their definition of innovation, what they use as a proxy to measure innovation is the IPs. So if they see that a lot of patents are being filed in a particular country, it means the country is innovative. The reason is that when you file a patent, it means you have done something new that you think is novel to the world. And for that reason, you want some recognition for that. And innovation means you are doing new things. So is this the best proxy to measure innovation in a country? So you will see that even at the patent level, you have countries like China leading now, US and Japan. You have utility models. I wouldn't want us to go into details. You have trademarks. Why trademarks? Trademarks simply means that people are setting up new businesses. They think they have set up new businesses that are unique. And for that matter, they need trademarks for that. And that alone is an indication that SMEs, startups, innovation is happening in your country. And look at the list again, China. And now, the interesting thing is that if you look at this data and you match it against what is happening globally, when you look at the biggest economy in the world, I mean, did you see the correlation? It's very direct that US and China are competing when it comes to the global market. And you see that when it comes to trademarks, they are the highest filers when it comes to trademarks and what have you. Industrial designs, what it means is that people are They are designing new things. Toyota is going to come out with this new model of vehicle. We want to look different from, let's say, Kia. There are people who have been able to come out with new designs of how their lamp will look like, even how the vehicle will look like. What it means is that there's innovation. People are filing for industrial design. They are coming out with new designs. And you and I will see a new model vehicle and we'll go and import or buy it because the design looks very beautiful to us. Plant varieties. Now, the most important thing for us should have even been plant varieties because we think at our stage we are still an agrarian economy. We do so much of agriculture. Now, plant varieties are supposed to protect the kind of varieties, maybe seeds or crop varieties that you are able to come out with. And what it means is that if you are buying even tea from Kenya or China, perhaps it has been protected that you have to buy seedlings from them to be able to plant in your country. So that is how the picture looks like globally. Now, when you narrow down to only patent, because this by far is what shows a measure of technology and innovation, you will realize that between 2011 and 2021, Asia has been dominating when it comes to applications. And you can see the data when it comes to Africa, the share of African applications is just about 0.6%. I must also add that one of the highest performing science countries in Africa is South Africa. You also have the Kenya coming, some of the East African countries, Egypt and what have you. So what it means is that even within this 0.6%, Ghana, we might not be doing very well when it comes to filing of patent applications. But you have Asia in the lead, you have North America, you have Europe. These three economies are doing well in that regard. So that's by way of the global picture. Now, when you come to the Ghanaian context, Ghana also has an innovation policy direction. If you pick what we call the President Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies, it is clearly stated that the government of Ghana wants to place science and technology development and its application at the center of national development. Our National Medium-Term Development Policy Framework also wants to mainstream science, technology, and innovation, all socio-economic activities. It means the intention is there. Government of Ghana has the intention to drive this economy through science, technology, and innovation. And there are some key policies that enables that. We have the National STI policy. Currently, it's under review because it has elapsed 2022. So we are now reviewing it to come out with a new National STI policy. The Ghana Industrial Policy is one of the beautiful policies you can ever find because it has a link between industrialization and then innovation. It even mentions R&D, innovation, and everything. However, implementation has been a challenge. We also have the 10-point industrialization agenda of the challenge. Now, we have the draft Ghana Digital Economic Policy that is being developed, at least to take care of the digital era and the fourth industrial revolution. We have a National Research Fund Act, the government of Ghana has passed in 2020. However, the implementation hasn't started yet. We have the Venture Capital Trust Fund, the Securities and Exchange, the Transfer, GIPC, STEM and TVET policy by government. So all these policies are enabling policies. What we just require is that to properly coordinate them and set the agenda properly, because all these policies are there and they are policies that actually support innovation in every country. Apart from policies, we have key institutions. We have the Ghana Enterprises Agency that has been set up, and we all know what it means for the activities of SMEs in a country. And we know the direct link between SMEs, activities, and innovation. I mean, you can't delink them. They are bedfellows. You have the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program that is running. You have an opportunity to set up a development bank Ghana, 15 universities. And we all know universities are supposed to be the engine of technology. They are supposed to come out with research, development, and technologies for the absorption of industry and SMEs. 10 technical universities, public research institutes, over 30 or even more innovation and tech hubs in the country. And then we also have GIPs. So we also have institutions. When it comes to the policy and institutional arrangement, we have quite significant policies and institutions that is supposed to set the tone for innovation. Now, if you have all these institutions and all these policies, for you to be able to measure the performance of your country in terms of innovation and competitiveness, usually there are certain key indicators we look at. Something like gross expenditure on R&D. Now, if you compare what is happening across the industrialized countries and Ghana in particular, gross expenditure on R&D is one of the things that you normally look at. How much you are spending on R&D, not only by government, not only by public funding, but also by private sector, how much businesses are willing to spend or invest in R&D. Then human capital and talent for innovation, another critical thing. What kind of human capital do you need? What kind of talent do you need for innovation? And so it's a major policy concern. Infrastructure, in terms of space, I mean, space technology, internet, labs, foundries, and what have you, they all support innovation. Finance, venture capital, stock markets, what is happening, patient capital, entrepreneurship, intellectual property, and what have you. Now, I must also add that Ghana belongs to 66 science and technology lagging countries. And so indicators on all the above are low for now. The indicators we have on all these indicators I've mentioned are not very impressive. And that even qualifies us to be part of the 66 lagging countries. And I think we need to work to change that. And so far, globally, we have what we normally use as a measure for a country's innovation, the state of your innovation, and that is the Global Innovation Index. If you look at the rankings from 2019 to 2021, you realize that out of about 132 countries, I mean, we are almost in the fourth quartile. That is almost at the fourth quadrant of innovative countries. And I don't think we want to stay there. There needs to be an improvement in terms of ranking. I think 2022 we did better, but still, we are still almost in the fourth quadrant. And that is something we need to work on. So that is the picture. As far as innovation is concerned, the world community has agreed on this particular arrangement to measure countries' innovation. And that is where we are as a country in Ghana. And we need to work to change that. Now, we, even at the ministry ourselves, we did some studies on STI human capital. We wanted to see how we train when it comes to human capital. But this one was limited to tertiary institutions, universities. And you realize that, interestingly, most of the trainings we have as far as human capital is concerned is in the area of education. We have business administration and law, and all STEM fields is just here. So if I say all STEM fields, you don't want to break them down. The engineering, the ICT, and what have you, all find them here. Now, one interesting thing about your human capital is that, for instance, if you wanted to even go take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution, you know you need skills, you require skills in the area of coding, programming, ICT, and what have you. If you are not doing very well in terms of ICT, it means you are already disadvantaged. You are not going to reap the great dividends of the digital economy. You have arts and humanities and other disciplines. What are the key issues? Why are we here? What are the key issues as far as policy is concerned? These are the key issues. We have low investment in R&D and innovation. And when I say R&D, I mean research and development, what the researchers are doing, both public researchers and private researchers, and innovation as well. Innovation activities like running innovation challenges don't have so much investments in that. There's also a weak coordination of the national system of innovation. Like I mentioned in the triple helix model, if you have everybody working and it's not geared towards a common goal, it means we are even going to have a challenge in terms of setting the direction for the country. And then the third one is challenge of setting clear direction for innovation. Now, we are trying to take advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. That is the digital era. We want to leapfrog. It's very easy to leapfrog because in the fourth industrial revolution, you require more of skills than maybe other variables like infrastructure and what have you. If you sit in Ghana and you are a very good programmer or coder, you can work for someone in the US. I mean, not quite, just about last week, we heard Mr. Easy selling one of his portfolios at $1 billion. Without the era of digital economy, I'm not sure he would have been able to do that. It means he understands how the market works and he was able to take advantage of that. And what it means is that we can have opportunities like that for Africans and people to take advantage of the digital economy. But it means we need certain skills. People must understand the skills of how to even, I mean, what he sold was part of a VC company he set up. How many of us have ventured into doing things like that? Do you even understand how venture capital works? How many of us will sacrifice to put monies in startups or do angel investments? Now, this is what has happened, and this is what has made what we call the Silicon Valley and then the Shenzhen of China. And someone has just attempted it, and he's been able to make $1 billion. It's an inspiration to all of us to take advantage of what is happening around. Those skills and talents across the waves of the industrial revolution. Now we are trying to develop a lot of skills in the area of coding, developing apps and what have you. However, we still have some challenges when it comes to skills in terms of manufacturing, design, material sciences. All these skills are required to be able to take advantage of the various waves of industrial revolution. Weak industry-university research collaboration. I mean, universities and industries are not really working properly. The collaboration is very weak. But usually, when you have a very good relationship between universities and research organizations, they are able to come out with very good products, and then innovation actually thrives where there's a very good collaboration. The weak linkage across the various ways of industrial revolution. So, like in our case, a lot of focus is on digitalization now, which is good, but we don't have to forget about the other waves like manufacturing, mechanization, and what have you. We need to draw the linkage properly so that if we say people should do AI, the AI should be applied to, let's say, maybe agriculture. If someone is doing artificial intelligence or machine learning, you should be able to apply it to, let's say, waste management issues. How do we detect plastics along the beaches with an AI or a machine learning technology? So that is what that particular digital apps or economy must be linked to the real sector of the economy. That's one of the things I think. Low venture capital financing deals for innovation. It's low. I mean, venture capital financing in this country, you don't see much of venture capital going to startups, people who have dreams. It's sometimes some of the venture capital financing we do is even to SMEs that are already established, who traditionally could have even gone to the banks for funding, but they come under the ambit of venture capital. That is not how venture capitals work elsewhere. It's always venture capital goes to places where banks will not want to take the risk, but at least people live in the dreams of the youth and startups, and so they invest in that. And there's low investment in terms of that. Now, having said all this, like I said earlier, we are reviewing the national STI policy. And what we are trying to do is to address some of the key issues we identified. And so the policy seeks to improve investment in R&D. We want to see a significant improvement in R&D. Also want to have something like fund of funds for research and innovation. And the investment in R&D should not come from the government. We should be able to have other stakeholders from the private sector, from other ministries, from other agencies, putting monies together to enhance research and innovation. So we call it fund of funds, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with that. We also need to build the required human capital in STEM for innovation. So we need the skills, the human capital, build infrastructure for research and innovation, enhance entrepreneurship and innovation, and coordinate and manage the national system of innovation, which is very critical. And so that is what we seek to do with the policy. But we have some prospects as a country. If you look at the strong national digitalization agenda, which is championed by the Vice President himself, His Excellency, yeah, tells you that the prospects are high. It means there's policy support for it, and then a strong government policy agenda on it. So prospects are high, and we can take advantage of that. We also have a very a green fintech sector. Fintech sector so far is doing very well. We have also set up the National Research Fund to allocate about 0.5% of national revenue. Once it is operationalized, maybe some resources will start coming into the National Research Fund for funding R&D. That will support the activities of startup, SMEs, and what have you. A strong partnership with development partners like the EU, the UK, Korea, Germany. We have some partnership both at the government level and then the private sector. The program we are having here today clearly shows that there's some relationship between Ghana and the EU. At the level of the ministry too, we also have development partners that we understudy. We understudy their systems of innovation, what has worked well for them, what we can replicate in Ghana. So those things are happening. And ultimately, we have the startups bill that will crown it. Once we have a startup act in place, I have seen the bill, and I think it has been able to identify the necessary ingredients that is required to make startups innovative. Talk of R&D, intellectual property, and what have you have all been mentioned in the startup bill. And I think once the act is passed, it can support and enhance innovation. So that is just by way of a broad overview of the policy Ghana in terms of innovation. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Nashiru. That was a very detailed overview. And yeah, Ghana has made progress in formulating policies for the innovation system, but there's still more room for improvement. I'm sure most of us on the call by now, you took down notes, you might have questions, just keep it. And then as we go on, or you can type it in the chat box, and then as we go on, we'll address your question for you. But because of our time, we'll move on. Thank you so much once again, Mr. Salifu. And yeah, so, you know, Ghana and even Africa in general, we have a lot of potential with in the innovation ecosystem. And many European countries and even institutions like the EU have recognized this potential of startups, and they have also implemented various policies to support the African innovation ecosystem. So as we are moving on, we'll hand over to Mr. Olufemi Adewome from MEST, the Programs Director at MEST, to lead us on the European enabling policies for the African startups. So we would also hear from Mr. Femi. And then as Mr. Femi also goes on, you can keep your questions, type them in the chat box, and then it would duly be answered along the line. But I'm excited about the discussion so far. Thank you. Mr. Femi, over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to just say thank you to Mr. Nashiru for that very insightful session. And thank you to the Hyperspace team and AfriConEu for inviting me to speak today. Just quickly a sound check. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So I'm just going to keep this very short and make it sort of like a discussion. I'll just start with a quick introduction of myself, my company that I work with, and I'm actually speaking at this event because of another program that we're involved in called the DigiLogic. So I'll speak also very briefly about DigiLogic. And then I'll go on to talk about the policies by the EU that are enabling startups in Africa. So very quickly, my name is Femi. I work with MEST, and MEST is an NGO started in 2008 by Young Michigan to train software entrepreneurs in Africa. At MEST, we have a number of programs, the flagship of which we call our training program, where we train 60 young entrepreneurs from all over Africa on a fully funded, fully residential program and full-time program here in Accra for 1 year. At the end of this 1 year, they all create startups, typically roughly about 14 to 15 startups, and they pitch these startups for funding. We usually will fund about 5 to 10, 11 of them with $100,000 each every year. Following this, they move into our incubator, where we support them for another 18 months to take those business ideas that they included in the training program to the market. And during these 18 months, we support them to also receive follow-up funding, either from our foundation or from other investors. Since inception, MEST has created over 80 startups, created and funded over 80 startups in 2008 till now. And we have also about 30 of them still active in our portfolio today. Some of them are names that you're familiar with, like Trotto Tractor, Mekasa, A Complete Farmer. Aside from that, in 2018, we began to look at how to expand MEST's impact. And then we started looking to speaking with partners like the MasterCard Foundation, like the United Nations. And out of those came a number of programs, basically accelerator programs and skills and employment programs. And between then and now, we've launched and run a number of programs that so we are familiar with: MEST Express, MEST Skill, UNICEF Startup Labs, Pre-MEST, our skills and employment training program. We have accelerated over 200 startups. We have trained and matched to employment over 600 young people resident here in Ghana. But more pertinent to this event is our partnership with 6 other organizations spread across Europe and Africa as part of an EU-funded program called DigiLogic. DigiLogic is a program to sort of catalyze interest and the development of skills in smart logistics. Between when we started and now, we've run several programs. First, starting with a research program to map out the ecosystem in Africa, to look at who are all the stakeholders in smart logistics, who are the people that are interested in traditional logistics, and then in bringing innovation into how logistics is done across the continent. And then understanding how logistics plays out in Africa as separate from Europe. So this is not actually supposed to just be a program to benefit Africa, but it's supposed to create cross-learning between the hubs in Europe that are involved in logistics and those of us in Africa also involved. We have run a number of programs, a capacity building challenge program where we've been able to identify 12 startups that we're supporting with mentoring also over a period of 1 year to improve their offerings in logistics to help them also grow and scale. This program is part of the Horizon 2020 program of the EU. And I've just come through this route because I want to link it to what I'm about to talk about, how the EU is implementing policies to support African startups. In 2020, shortly after the pandemic, the EU and the African Union leaders met. The intention was to sort of consolidate discussions and engagement that have been going on between the EU and Africa for several years around how to strengthen our partnerships, how to strengthen our integration, how to bring maybe say best practices in Europe to help Africa, how to move away from the traditional aid where European countries or Western countries give aid to support Africa, to move away from just giving aid to actually begin to support and engage in capacity development and enablement. Out of this came out 9 actions, and I'm just going to today speak about 5 of them that are directly relevant to startups in Africa. The first action was at the EU, wanted with Africa to maximize the benefits of a green transition to minimize threats to the environment. As all are aware, climate sensitivity or climate awareness or the awareness of climate impact or of our impact on the climate has become very high this past probably like 5-6 years. Everybody is really concerned about what we need to do to reduce the carbon emissions and reduce global warming and find better ways and better practices and habits to sustain our planet. And this action is supposed to support Africa and African governments, African businesses also, and relevant stakeholders to begin to build capacity in those technologies, in those systems, those habits that bring about sustainability, or those habits that reduce the negative impact on the climate and on the planet. And this, of course, across also different sectors of our existence, of our businesses, including areas like buildings, properties, agriculture, logistics, and begin to find new and innovative ways to produce energy, to produce power, to sustain our livelihood. This is interesting because I have seen that a lot of our startups are involved in either direct climate impacting businesses. For example, I'm sure some of you are aware, you know about Solar Taxi, you might know about AquaFresh, that's involved in creating cooling systems to help tomato farmers and reduce post-harvest losses. And many other similar businesses that are springing up just to help create sustainable ways of doing the same things that we've always done, but with less impact on the planet. So this is one of the pillars or the actions that came out from that engagement between the EU and African Union. The next pillar is to boost the country's digital transformation. Now, this is close to many of us because a lot of our startups are involved in digital entrepreneurship one way or the other. And key to the activities that the EU identified was building infrastructure. We all know that internet connectivity and internet infrastructure is one of the biggest challenges we have in Africa. And this is one of the top pillars that the EU seeks to drive to help to seek investment, to seek partnerships to rapidly expand our internet footprint in Africa. And also, beyond the infrastructure, actually, to now begin to help develop and build digital skills. As the world has largely embraced digital ways of doing things, we also cannot be left behind because a whole new economy has been created around technology, around digital technology. And it will be unfortunate, of course, if Africa gets left behind. But I'm happy to say that some of these interventions are actually creating the awareness that's needed. We are actually seeing a lot of startups coming up in Africa that are involved using digital technology to solve some of the problems that we are seeing. I mean, we're seeing a lot of startups coming up in last mile logistics, and I'm not talking about startups that are being imported and bringing the technology into Africa. We're talking about African startups being created in digital logistics. And I mean, we're talking about startups like Yum Yum in Tamale. We're talking about Shark Express here in Ghana that are standing head to head with the international competitors in digital in last mile logistics, and this is just part of it. I mean, we see startups coming up also in social commerce, in e-commerce, in health, in e-health consultation, medicines delivery, and we actually begin to see a lot of impact of the interventions by the EU and other international partners in our digital space. Some of us here in this call have also been actively involved in supporting this, should I say, transformation that's been championed by the EU. I know many of us run acceleration programs, we run skills and development programs. Some of you, we have partnered together in some of these programs, and we are happy to see the kind of results and the kind of outcomes that have come out of the programs we run and still actually continue to come out. So this is the digital space. Actually, I think is probably one of the biggest spaces that the EU intervention we might see playing out. I have seen personally last year a number of a couple of action papers from the EU delegation here in Ghana, where part of the focus actually is digital skills development, first of all, generally, but also especially with TVET institutions, and digital entrepreneurship, including also how to digitize even our SMEs and enable our erstwhile traditional SMEs to benefit from digital technology, from things like social media, from the internet, from even maybe none of the maybe high, should I say, top digital technologies that we're aware of, but even the lower ones, like even things like mobile money, you know, for businesses to be able to benefit from and use this effectively in their business. So I think this is a major, massive space that the EU policies, I think, is helping. We're seeing a lot of intervention from the EU or from the European countries, particularly, for example, the GIZ, the French government, supporting digital technology in places like in agriculture, for example, in health management. And we think the more this continue, the faster growth in digital technologies will actually, or digital innovation will happen. The next area is to do, you know, in my world, we deal with businesses and startups. And if you ask 20 startups, what are your top 5 problems? Funding will be number 1 or number 2. And this is one of the things that's also addressed by one of the pillars in the EU engagement, which is to increase access to sustainable investments, to promote investment opportunities through innovative financing mechanisms and boost economic integration. One of the things that we see clearly is that when it comes to investments, for example, we see a lot of growth all over the world in investment in startups, in technology startups, but it's not that high here in Africa. And it's not that high for one big reason. The Western world views Africa as very, very high risk because Africa is almost like a black box to them. A lot of the businesses and organizations in the Western world that are looking for where to invest their money will be happy. Actually, they understood the opportunities and maybe the ease of doing business available in some of the countries in Africa, but they do not know. It's a black box. They are afraid that if they bring their money, they will lose it. They see the risk as really, really, really high. And one of the things that came up in some of the engagements we had with the EU in one of the consultative forums that we had that they held was that you actually need to begin to help create inroads for foreign investors to actually come and experience. A lot of fear and risk is based on lack of information and lack of awareness. But if you actually come in and you see what is happening by yourself, then I think probably 80% of that fear and perception of risk is written off. So one of the things that the EU can help in this area, where one of their policy pillar actually is not just bring money. I've seen the kind of budget that the EU has. I mean, it's sizable, but it's nowhere near what is needed to solve the investment gap in Africa and in Ghana. But if they are able to create events, activities that bring investors from all over the world, including in the EU, into Africa to experience firsthand. The truth is that there are Europeans who have been living in Africa for a long time. Africa is not as risky as the perception says. But because they do not know, they don't get the opportunity to see firsthand, to engage with the businesses, to engage with the individuals that are involved, to see the problems for themselves. So one of the things that can be done in this area actually is to create opportunities for investors to actually come physically and see for themselves. We've had the experience of people who have come and seen and they say, wow, we did not know this place is like this. And then they've actually come and started trying to set up businesses in Africa and in Ghana. So this, in my opinion, is one of the things that needs to be done in this area. And I'm happy to also say, I mean, they talked about innovative financing mechanisms. I'm beginning to see a lot of intervention and supporting of our governments to bring new ways of financing into the ecosystem such that it gets to the last mile at a very cheap rate rather than the expensive kind of financing options that we have right now. I'm hearing some circles and we'll be hearing some good news very soon about interest rates that are even as low as 9% in Ghana. And I trust those people. I think it's really going to happen, so we're looking. And I'm also aware of interventions like the youth start that the government is working on. I'm aware also that organizations like the World Bank, IMF are supporting the government actually in this endeavor. I've interviewed or had chats with a couple of them to learn the things that they're actually trying to do in support of the government in this initiative. So I think a lot is happening. I think the horizon is positive, and I'm actually looking out for some of the opportunities that's going to come. The other thing, number 4 pillar, is to be able to attract investors, but now by ensuring that they're enabling policies in the government itself. And I think I've already seen this started happening already. There are a lot of things that the government is doing now around trying to create a better policies that support a healthier investment climate. And we are, me as a foot soldier on ground is really happy that the EU is involved in this because it's difficult for me to go to the government and talk to the government, but when government begins to talk to government, there's opportunities like this, there will be, people will listen, and then actions will begin to happen. And we're already seeing those actions happen. So I would encourage the EU and the EU delegation in Africa, please do more of this. The last bit, the last one that I'm going to talk about is about skills development. It's one of the pillars, one of the 9 pillars that the EU and Africa and the AU agreed to work on together, which is rapidly enhance learning and knowledge and skills and research and innovation capacities in Africa. From my own reflections and an assessment, the major difference between Africa and the Western world is education. And please don't get me wrong, we are very, very well educated in Africa. We have some of the best minds in Africa, but unfortunately, the density or the what's the word? The depth of the education is not at par as what we have in the Western world. We still have a lot of our people who, I think I saw some statistics that 80% of Africans don't go beyond secondary school education. If we're going to have the sort of innovation that the Western world that has put them ahead, we're going to need to get as many people as possible educated to the highest level possible. I was looking at some, I saw a PhD, a link to consider a PhD, I think in machine learning some time ago, and I think it was at Stanford University. And you know, I followed the link and then took a look at the faculty, and I would say out of about maybe 15, 20 people that I saw, 90% of them were Asians. Now, in Stanford University, one of the best universities in the world, in their machine learning program, 90% of the faculty are Asians. Then we shouldn't be surprised, actually, the kind of development that we're seeing in Asia, because somehow Asians are getting themselves into the places of education and learning and research and innovation that matters. And this is what, as Africa, also we need to do. We need to be extremely intentional to leverage the kind of opportunities that the EU is putting before us to ensure that every young person in Africa gets trained to the highest level possible. Now, when this happens, it's going to affect so many things in our ecosystem, including our governments. A lot of our lives are affected by policies, by decisions, by actions of the government. But if we have people there who are educated to the right level, who see things from a different perspective, a perspective of innovation, a perspective of creativity, a perspective where they are informed. They're not just saying they told us to do this, but they do this because they fully understand the implications of what they're doing. They themselves are bringing their depth of knowledge to the table. Then things will change. Now, the EU is doing so much. How do we respond? What do we do? My thinking, one, is that as hubs and stakeholders, one, we need to be aware of what is happening, what the interventions are happening. And there's a lot happening, particularly even in Ghana here. There's a whole lot that's happening. I don't know how many meetings I attended last year with either the EU delegation or forums that they are organized to let us know what they are planning for the next 4 or 5 years. The GIZ is launching out so much products. The French government is, so there's a lot that's happening, but we all need to engage and key into that information flow and be aware of what is happening. And then we also now need to begin to engage and support those actions. One of the things that I see, while they want to do a lot in Africa and Ghana, they don't understand the ecosystem as much as we do. We are the ones who have been here for a long time. We are the ones, I mean, you've been part of this because you built it, you know what's happening in Tamale, you know what's happening in Ashanti region, you understand the dynamics of culture. And we will know how best to leverage the opportunities that they're bringing to benefit our ecosystem and our communities. So we need to engage and support. We need to engage and support and give advice, because there are many things that we will know that they don't know. We need to bring them also to come and see firsthand, rather than stay in the offices and maybe work on hearsay. But invite them into your events. Invite them into your different things that you're doing, so that they can see firsthand, they can engage, they can really be part of a system. This is the only way that the interventions that they're bringing will make sense. and will be positioned to achieve the best results. Finally, let us also leverage those interventions. They are looking for partners to help implement some of these interventions. And I don't think there are any better partners than many of us who are in this ecosystem. I know many of you would work together. You guys, I mean, lots of skills, lots of knowledge, lots of experience in the ecosystem. So let's engage and let's leverage these interventions. And I think the future can only be bright. This will be all. I can take a few questions if it's permitted. Otherwise, we can move on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Femi. Thank you so much. That was very, very insightful. Thank you. Thank you for the contribution. And I know there are lots of people on the call with questions and contributions as well. You can drop it in the chat box, or you can, we'll open the floor for questions so you can get the opportunity to also ask your questions. But Mr. Femi, this has been a very, very valuable one, especially with what the EU is doing with the appealers for the African startup. Thank you so much. So I will pass, because of our time, I'll pass the baton to Filipina. Filipina will be moderating our panel discussion. So on the call, we have some policymakers and we have some startups as well. And we have some innovation hubs also on the call who would be able to also engage and also give insights as to what is happening on the ground. And a lot of things has been said, but how can we take advantage of these things to also leverage on them to benefit? So I'll hand over to Filipina to take over the panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Josephine. Thank you all for staying and for joining us today. We have a great panel here. I'm looking forward to hearing and learning from all our panelists. And I'm certain that you who are on the call, the audience, you are also very eager to know their thoughts and then learn from what they have to tell us as well. I will just repeat that if you have any questions, any thoughts, opinions on the topics that we'll be discussing today, just drop them in the chat or write them down. I wouldn't want you to forget, because there will be a session where the floor will be open for you to ask questions or just drop your opinions. So please put your questions down. We would love to hear them and for you to be a part of this event. So let's start with a quick round of introductions. I would love the first panel discussion. We have three strong, panelists. So we'll have them introduce themselves and then we can go ahead. Should I mention names, or the panelists would do as the honor? So we have Mr. Franklin, Mr. Nashiru, and Mr. Sharif. If they could please introduce themselves, give us a brief background, just 1 minute, and then we could go on. So Mr. Franklin, you can go first, if that's okay.
All right, good morning to everyone. And it's great to be here for all the thought-provoking information shared this morning from Nasiru, from Femi, and everybody. My name is Franklin Owusu-Kakari. I'm the Director of Business Support and also Innovation Commercialization, a new add-on at the National Entrepreneurship and Innovation Program. And I've also been in the policy space for NEIP for a while. NEIP, briefly, most of you may know, is a government flagship policy initiative that looks at the startups and entrepreneurship and innovation space within the country in the area of ensuring policy development that create the enabling environment for startups and for innovation to thrive, and also to look at the capacity building for major players within the startup and innovation ecosystem space, funding, access to market and market linkages. And most of these things have been the areas that NEIP has been operating for since 2014, when it was known as the Youth Enterprise Support and 2017 transformed into the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program. We are an agency currently operating under the Ministry of Finance and we work collaboratively with MESTI, with Ministry of Communication as well, and other government support agencies. Our focus is to look at the startup space and to look at innovation within the space. That has been the focus of NEIP. I'll end here for now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin. Can we have Mr. Nashiru, even though we've heard from you today, can you just give us something brief?
Okay, I'm Nashiru Salifu. I'm the Deputy Director responsible for Science, Technology and Innovation at MESTI. And MESTI is somehow, if you like, the principal government advisor on technology and innovation. And so we do this through collaboration with the actors in the innovation ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, Mr. Sheriff, if you could give us a little round.
Yes, thank you, Pina. The last is always reserved for the best. Anyway, my name is Sheriff Gali. Frankly, and Nasiru are all my friends anyway. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, and I also co-lead the Ghana Startup and Innovation Bill Technical Working Committee. The Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs is the official network of young entrepreneurs in Ghana. Basically, what we do is to mobilize, train, empower, advocate for policies, and do whatever we can to ensure that young entrepreneurs in Ghana are innovative, are sustainable, and that they can build global competitive businesses. The Chamber has been working with so many partners, NEIP, the government. We serve on the official private sector group that advise the president on private sector issues. And then by virtue of that, we also serve on so many other committees with respect to government side. And our main focus is to build a sustainable ecosystem where young entrepreneurs can really have access to the tools and resources they need to build a sustainable business. Yeah, so that is me.
All right, thank you very much. So audience, as I said earlier, we have a strong panel here today, and we are going to delve into their minds and see what their thoughts are on the various topics we are going to discuss. So let's just go straight into it. So I would love to know about existing policies in Ghana that supports the development of innovative solutions and the digital innovation space. So let's throw that to Mr. Franklin, since he introduced himself first. And please tell us what those policies are in Ghana. Hello, am I still audible?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, please, we can. Please go ahead.
Right, I think our audience today will bear testimony of what Nasiru did to open up our eyes to a number of things. And I don't want to be repetitive of most of the things that he shared today, but government over the years has evolved, and a lot of things, there's a huge and strong interest in the innovation space for Ghana. And he shared even how we are performing on the Global Innovation Index ranking over the years. And if you look at Africa, even within the sub-Saharan Africa, Ghana is part of the top 5, really working hard in the innovation space and ensuring that we build a strong ecosystem for Ghana and for Africa. So there's a strong interest, and we can see a number of policies that are already in place and some which are now coming up. And the current one, which is strongly coming up, is the draft Ghana Digital Economy Policy, and also the Startup Act or the Startup Bill. We also have the STI, that's the Science, Technology and Innovation Policy, which is also being reviewed, and Nasiru talked about it. Already we have the Entrepreneurship Policy, which we worked on together with the GEA, Ghana Enterprises Agency. They have adopted it, though it's our document. They are working hand in hand with us they are doing the MSME policy. All these have certain sections of the policies also talking about innovations. It means that the government is keen to ensuring that we create the enabling environment for innovations to thrive. And for me, the innovation space and what is happening within the tech space all shows that this is really an idea whose time has come. And it is not only the government that is paying critical attention to it, the private sector is following suit. Development partners also are channeling their strength and interest into this area. So we have quite a number of policies, and the new ones coming are all gearing, making sure that we have a strong innovation support systems so that all the innovations, Ghana will not will not be left behind with respect to the fourth industrial revolution, say that Nasiru talked about. So there are quite a number of policies, and for which I believe that I will urge all those who are listening and all those who will listen to the recordings in future that get opportunity to look at the STI policy, get opportunity to look at the entrepreneurship policy, get opportunity to look at the draft Ghana digital economy policy. All of these will show you the various key interventions government is putting in place to ensure that we have a drive. And above all, look at the startup bill and what we are doing for the innovation space, for the startups within the space. I'll end here for now.
Thank you very much. That was so refreshing to hear that there are existing policies and some that are on their way. It gives us so much hope. Mr. Nashiru, would you like to add something to what Mr. Franklin just gave us?
No, so I think he said it all. One thing I would only emphasize on is on the network, how we are able to weave all these actors together to undertake innovation that will become very useful to our socioeconomic challenges. And that's why I mentioned the idea. I think even Franklin himself agrees that we started a discussion on setting up an authority that is supposed to coordinate the actors in the innovation ecosystem. So it's one of the things to deal with. And once we deal with that, I think we can channel the resources and then talent to push the innovation agenda in this country. Thank you.
Yeah, so what Nasir is talking about, we have a plan to, and working around that one day, NEIP with MESTI together will be able to create a very strong innovation authority that will coordinate the affairs of the innovation space. It's something that we are working towards, and I'm sure Sheriff will also talk about it within using the startup bill to address some of these issues. Thank you.
Okay, so let's ask Mr. Sheriff if you have anything to add to what we've already heard.
Please come again if I were.
Okay, so we are talking about existing policies, and we would love to hear from you your opinion on the existing policies in Ghana that supports the development of innovative solutions in the digital innovation space. If there's anything you want to add to what the two panelists have already given us.
Yeah, so they have said it all from the government aspect. As you know, per our development system, government is the driver of policies and implementers. So Ghana, we are doing well with those policies. We've seen the life of MESTI and that of NEIP and so many others that are putting together policies to support the innovation ecosystem. However, in a bit more disconnected way, what I literally means is that we do not harmonize the interventions. I was actually happy last year and this year having to know that NEIP and ministry, the MESTI, Nasiru and their team is looking at ways to harmonize, because that has always been our problem. Government having brilliant ideas, brilliant policies, but the implementation is poor because one agency is leading, the other is supporting because they are not part, and so many others. So yeah, just a little to add up. Ghana is one of the countries that have so many policies that are helping the innovation. And to add up the Ghana Startup Bill, when it's being passed to law, would really, really change a lot of things in the innovation ecosystem. Yeah, so that's what I can add up now.
Thank you very much. We are looking forward to the bill being passed and all. All right, so let's go to our next topic. So as an investor, what are some of the existing policy frameworks that encourage or protect investors who are interested in the Ghanaian startups? So if I'm an investor and I have an interest to invest in a Ghanaian startup, what are some policy frameworks that will protect me? I would like to start with you, Mr. Sharif.
All right, sure. Thank you very much. So once again, Ghana has policy frameworks that encourage or protect investor interests. Firstly, the Ghana Investment and Promotion Center Act 2013 Act 865 provides a comprehensive legal framework for investment promotion, facilitation, and protection in Ghana. So if you look at the act guarantees the protection of investment against exploitation, nationalization, or any form of interference by government. It also ensures that there is this free transferability of funds and repatriation of profits. So if you come here, you invest, you make your money. Ghana has one of the most liberal law that allows you to repatriate or transfer your profits, dividends, and others. So that's one of them, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center. The other thing too is the Security and Exchange Commission. It's also one of the acts, that's the 2016 Act 929, if I get it right. It also regulates the securities, the security industry in Ghana, including the issuance and trading of securities by startups. So where a startup can be able to go public by registering with SEC. A lot of startups in Ghana don't know that you can go and register with SEC and then be able to go public and allow investors invest in your business. The reason why you need that is that because SEC is going to regulate the investment from the investors. So this is one. Two, I can mention, there may be a lot. And then I also think that the establishment of NEIP is one other thing that has really come up to encourage investment in startup, because NEIP do not only give funding, but then they provide training through the hubs, and then this builds startups for investors. And this, to me as an investor, is an encouragement, because your ecosystem has a support from hubs, have support from NEIP, and then I should be able to confidently put in my money in any startup. The unfortunate thing is that most of this intervention I've mentioned, even with GIPC, with the SEC, even with my good friends NEIP, most of these things are not well implemented. Remember, I speak for the private sector, so pardon me. Most of them are not well implemented. They can be complex and time-consuming to navigate. I am telling you, we've gotten so many private investors that are coming in, but GIPC regulations alone, fill this form, fill that form, then they just lose it. They don't want to go on with it because I'm bringing my money, I'm going to do all of these things. You understand? But when you go back, they'll tell you these are the things done to ensure. Go to Rwanda. It's as easy as a one-day activity to get everything done for you to invest in a startup. But Ghana, it take you like months. And these are some of the issue we are talking about. And then also, you would realize that most of the laws or the policies are not directly influencing or addressing the needs of the investor. What does the investor need? I have a $1 million. I just want to put it on a startup. What is my interest? Startups in tech or in agribusiness. Then what I need is that after registering with GIPC, I should be able to get this startup, or GIPC reach out to NEIP get them these startups, and this is easy to do. But this is not done. Now, our policies will want you to pass the money through government and all of those things. And most startups don't want that. They want that liberal direction. They want that connection to the startup, and that is what they need. So we need to look at our laws and point them to really be able to address the needs of these investors. Then the other point is that mostly, if you look at our rules, do not allow you to bring in huge investment. I know there's one GIP. I was actually trying to look for a law that if you are bringing a certain amount of money, you need to pay a certain amount of deposit. For what? So why I'm bringing maybe 20 million, $50 million, and I have to do, because the money is huge, there are so many regulations. So it doesn't really promote investors coming in with a lot of money. Overall, I think that Ghana has these small policies that encourage and protect investors' interests. I still believe that when we are able to come out and the startup bill is passed into a law, it will facilitate and bolster investment into innovative startups, because investors will now gain what we call capital gain incentives. These are the things the bill is pushing, so that if you're an investor, you put your money in a Ghanaian startup, you have a tax relief, you have so and so. This will promote startup. This will let them know that, okay, if I'm investing in you and I come back to take my profit, you don't tax the profit. At least allow me to take my profit or reinvest it in another startup. This is what we want. And these are what the investors need if you talk to them. Yes, so let me drop it here since I'm the only person. Yeah.
All right, those were very interesting points you gave us there. Mr. Franklin, would you like to add something to what we've heard? We've heard a lot on this, but is there anything you'd like to drop?
Yeah, hello. I think Sheriff have mentioned that the government of Ghana, in the line of creating a very good enabling environment, has been able to try to reduce a number of things. I think there have been quite a good improvement in the system. I think Sheriff himself will bear witness. We started with, when getting registration, that had to take you 81 days to register a business, a startup in Ghana. Today, within a week or two, you can do it. So, Sheriff, though you may be from the private sector, you must also place acknowledgement rightly where.
Frankly, I was talking about investors. Yeah, registering the businesses, it takes now. Government have done well. I'm talking about the investors, not the business registration.
Because for me, there's more room for improvements, and we need to be able to.
Sure.
As government agencies, and if you look at the GIPC at A65, which I will ask, is it one of the critical things in our country today? 3 days ago, I was doing a presentation speaking to a number of startups, and I was telling them that we are not reading. Even hub managers are not reading. There are a lot of loopholes in our tax system, which you can use to your advantage as part of tax avoidance. And we are not reading the things. A lot of things are available, even locational advantages. Some of you are not helping the startup because you yourself are not reading. We have a lot of policies. We have a lot of laws. We need to begin to critically analyze and look at where the loopholes are so that we can make proper arguments in this area. So I'll urge all of us to look at the GIPC at even 2013 at A65, go through it. It tells you all that is required of every investor. And now, do you know that as part of the fintech situation, there may be people who now want to do crowdfunding and all. These are new areas which we don't have laws. You know, innovation always is ahead of policy. Innovation is always ahead of laws. So the innovation comes before policies are developed to be able to match up with them. So the government of Ghana in 2021 issued a policy on crowdfunding and also in the fintech area. So I'll urge just go to the Bank of Ghana website, you look at it, and there's a regulation and aspect of any investor coming in the space of fintech, in the space of crowdfunding, what you have to do, what needs to be done to avoid anti-money laundering and combating the financing of terrorism. All these things have been spelled out to protect, and also there are laws to protect them that, look, if you are defrauded, we have proper legal system structures in place to ensure that your monies are secured for coming to Ghana. Nobody will invest in the country if you don't have the right laws that is supporting and protecting the interests of investors. So all these things are available. They are not, we don't have to just say, oh, they are not, they are there. Just go through all these laws that I'm mentioning. Various key interventions have been made when you invest. If it's for anti-money laundering processes, you have to go through to be able to ensure that we combat all these things. So, because investors are using certain startups to be able to use as a conduit for money laundering. So all these things, they are laws to protect. So my fellow startups and the hub managers, let's get and consume these documents and be able to, we can properly advise the startups that comes into our space. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like the perspective from the private side and the government side. It's all making this discussion very, very nice, and I'm enjoying it. Okay, so let's move on to the next topic. So we are talking about the year of return. We saw it was a brilliant initiative. People from the diaspora came to Ghana and all, but I would love to know what more the government can do to encourage those in the diaspora to support their home countries. And I would like to start with Mr. Franklin so that we get a government perspective.
Oh, okay. Nasir is also from government.
Yeah, but he talks more for the private side. And, and I like both angles.
I'm very much private sector driven. My colleagues are here, Gideon, AB Sam, I've been fighting in the private sector and now I have switched arms. So I'm dealing with all the two.
All right.
For me, one of the things, we have a number of brilliant Ghanaians in diaspora who are leading top-notch innovations from Europe, America, Latin America. All these areas, we have key Ghanaians there who are driving serious innovation. It will blow your mind away. If you go to NASA, we have key Ghanaians who are leading the innovations at NASA. And for me, that is why some of the professors have started coming home to be able to see how best they impact to the young people. NAIP, for instance, we've had a number of, we've been to UK to meet the Ghanaian, a certain Ghanaian community in UK. We've met some Ghanaian community in Holland. We've met some Ghanaian community in Canada. All these things was to look at the brilliant mind and how do we transition these guys to come home and partner local startups in the tech space, local startups in the innovation space, so that they can form teams and have best practices done. We've had some few good collaborations happening, and we need to be able to continue to encourage most of these diasporans who are coming home. One of the things our team, the business community, we don't do well. When we see these things coming, government organize a lot of diaspora meetings. We don't see the business community going there to say, oh, let me see, go there to see if I can strike some business deal. Sheriff is good at that, and it's getting him to places. We need to begin to look at this. And when we hear of certain diaspora engagement happening, the diaspora office is open, and they are doing their best to bring in a number. Currently, we are trying to get a number of hubs, about 50 hubs to go to UK, some also to go to South Africa, and some to go to Dubai. All this is to forge some level of network. And in all these meetings, NEIP is trying to arrange the Ghanaian community in these three places, UK, Dubai, and also South Africa, for them to meet the startup, the hubs that will be coming over, to share with them what they are also doing in diaspora, and how best these hubs can link them when they come back home, because they are directly engaging with the startups. So after going for some of these trips, when you come back home, how do you link these startups to the Ghanaians in diaspora who are doing amazing stuff? So it's a two-way affair. Government is doing its best, but the business community and the private sector must also rise to the occasion.
Nice points, nice points. Let's move to Mr. Sheriff and see what he has to add to that.
Thank you. You didn't even call me, but I was in anyway. Frankly, government is doing its best. Like with private sector. Today, they're me and my man. Anyway, I think it's a very important question. The year of return actually for me was one of the biggest innovations that a government can take. And I will give it to this government. Over 1.5 million people returning home during the year. And this is amazing. I've not seen it anywhere in Africa. I haven't been to all the African, but this, to me, I love it and I talk about it. So, and that is kudos to the government. I think that, but there are some few other things we can do to sustain it, because we've seen government efforts in sustaining it by bringing beyond the year. So in doing this beyond the year, one thing that we can do to facilitate and sustain this is that to create a more welcoming environment for diaspora. I have people who are willing to come to Ghana. They are not black, but they are not Ghanaians, but they are black, and they want to come to Ghana. An application for visa to come to Ghana is an issue because they don't really get it. So if there's a way Ghana government, and I'm sure Nashiru and Franklin and I all here, when they are in their meetings, they can put some of this thing. I am happy, and I know people like Franklin and Nashiru are young and intelligent, and they know what is really happening in the environment. So allowing or breaking down our process so that diasporans who want to come to Ghana to do business if we can make a special visa for startups who want to come here and set up businesses, and then we can be able to support them. One of the points is that we empower diasporans to participate in decision making. How many of our diasporans or Ghanaian Americans, Ghanaian whatever, are able to make decisions or contribute? You see, when you allow me to be part of your system, I feel like putting in my all. But when I'm like semi-part of it, then I don't feel like giving all. By decision making, we can invite them to some of our policy formulation. We can invite them and even allow some of them to vote when we are making doing election. This allows them to feel that you didn't only welcome me home, but you are allowing me to take decisions as what is happening in my country. So this will encourage them to come back home and do more. Highlighting the contribution of diasporans is another one we could do as a country. I want to stay true to your question, and that's why I'm giving my points one after the other. So we need to highlight the contribution of diaspora. There are some who have come to Ghana and have decided to stay, and some are investing, some are doing amazingly well. How much do we know about them? What spotlight are we giving to them? Government can work together with private sector. Let us through support. Let us highlight these people so that those eyes see that, oh, okay, this guy came and started fufu joint. He was in America for like 25. You know how they talk when I was in America for 25 years, and now they are starting a fufu joint, and government is promoting them like all of us. So these people will be interested in coming, and also promoting our culture exchange is one thing I think we can still use. Ghana is a country that has become the destination for a lot of Black people. To be honest with you, even Africans. I have traveled. When you go and say you're from Ghana, there's this kind of reply that makes you proud. Hey, Ghana is a favorite for everybody now, and especially Christmas. I don't know why they are now making Ghana a Christmas hub, but that is it. It's also tourism. So we need to promote our culture, where government can even involve in organizing this cultural displays in other countries to show what the rich culture of Ghana and letting people feel part of it. The Yorubas have taken a part of US. I'm sure we are aware. I was looking for the name. It's like a state for Yorubas, and it is kind of for them. You know, they made it their own, and then is one of the biggest states for the Yorubas. We can equally do that as Ghanaians. These are some of the things we can do. Additionally, one other things that government can also do is offer tax breaks and incentives to diasporans who want to invest in Ghana. What are some of the tax incentives? Create scholarship. You see, most of our young people want to go to UK to learn, US to learn, because there are scholarship programs for them. Here in Ghana, I know we don't have the money, but then we can try some of those things. Say that if you are in America, you are in diaspora, you want to come to Ghana and stay there as a Black young person, maybe we are waving this away, we are providing this. This will encourage our people who are over there giving birth to their children to say, okay, I will take you to Ghana because it will be cheaper to educate you in Ghana than to educate you in the US. And this could be something government could do. Also look at providing support for diasporans who want to start business. I spoke about it. Can we have a diaspora office for people? NEIP could take this up. If you want to set up a business, we are the go-to. So they can come from business registration, certifications, and all of the things they need for them to set up. This will make it easier for them. And then lastly, work with the diaspora community to provide, to promote our culture over there. So these are the few things I think we can do beyond the year of return, which was a massive innovation, and that really did a lot for Ghana. But these are some of the things government can do, and I hope my friends can take it along to their various agencies.
Those are really nice points, and I agree with all your points. I agree that Ghanaians are doing some really great work outside. In the entertainment industry, I think today I saw there's a movie on Netflix called, a series actually, The Diplomat, and it has 3 Ghanaians in there. So Ghanaians are doing massively well across the globe, and we have to tap into that to really do something here at home. All right, let's move on to the next topic. So this is one challenge I think we all know we have in Ghana. One major problem we are facing is digital innovation in finding the right talents. Finding the right talents. Even though we are churning out university graduates, we are still having a problem finding the right talent. So what policies can help to prepare graduates for 21st century jobs? Let's begin with Mr. Franklin.
Pina, please come again.
Okay, so I'm saying that one of the major problems facing the digital innovation is finding the right talents, even though we are churning out university graduates. So what policies do you think can help us prepare graduates for 21st century jobs?
All right, thank you, Pina. The last statistics show that Ghana churns out, let's say currently, the number of national service persons coming out from the tertiary and other analogous institutions is about 120,000. And Ghana churns out less than 1,000 graduates with technology knowledge. And this is something that we need to really seriously look at and work at it. So, hello.
Yes.
I'm happy with the work MEST is doing, making sure that we are able to aggregate in terms of our sectors, which areas are really looking at the technology area. And I'm happy now there's a strong government interest in the STEM area to be able to ensure that we push a lot of talents within the area of technology and innovation. And this, for me, we need to be able to encourage right from the basic through the high schools, junior and senior high, and also deliberate programs through the universities to be able to ensure that we can be able to groom proper talent. And from the side of NEIP, one of the things we realized, we started with the SCI, that's the Student Entrepreneurship Initiative. And through this program, we saw the kind of talents students from the high schools were really showcasing. We realized that now after school, where do they get the opportunity to be able to continue with the innovation process that they have begun from high school? Remember the high school thing that we were doing, we were not using the teachers as the instructors and as the trainers. We were using the incubation and innovation hubs to go in there and to provide tailor-made training solutions to prepare these young people. And that is why through the World Bank project, we decided to look for funding to support and build the capacity of the incubation hubs. This will be the best place to begin preparing the talent that Ghana needs. Because no matter what you do, our academic curriculum is still more verbose with words and English. We need to be able to get a lot of our private sector hubs, our partners, to be able to train these people. But if they are not resourced, they'll be chasing any small grant they see anywhere, even with that which are not in their area of expertise, because they want to also, man must eat and survive. They will just also want to chase anything. But when they are properly resourced, they can concentrate in their core areas and begin to create and build talent from these areas. And this is more sustainable than just a government policy-driven thing. But when it's private sector-driven, it becomes more sustainable, because change of government will not change the policy direction if it's driven from the side of private sector. So for me, as AfriConEu is also tailor-made to build the capacity of digital innovation hubs, we need to begin to grow the talent from these areas. It is more sustainable from this angle, but government will definitely support it with the right policy framework to ensure that this is done. Thank you.
That's good. Thank you very much. Mr. Sharif?
Hello?
Yes. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're very audible.
Is it my turn?
Yes, please.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
No problem.
So your question was come again. Okay, I
Okay.
think I got it. What the major problems facing the digital innovation, the right talent and
Yes.
policies to prepare graduates. Okay. So it's actually an interesting question. According to World Bank report, there are some interesting policies that World Bank think that Ghana can be able to adopt to most especially prepare our graduates for the 21st century jobs. One is aligning the formal education programs and skill development initiatives with the needs of the labor market in the future. So we need to look at the future of work. AI is taking over. Now, I am told that even Meta, that was formerly Facebook, will be laying off a lot of workers within this week. And we'll be seeing it, even Google, all of them are laying off. Why? Because AI has come and is taking over. Aside that, so what can we do by aligning this our formal education by the needs of the market? Understanding that a lot of people may lose their jobs, what then are the skills needed that somebody or AI cannot take over? These are the things that we should be looking at. And then I'm making sure that our people living in our various tertiaries and senior high schools or colleges are trained and they are connected to the labor-driven skills that are needed. Also, one thing we could do as a state is that, like Franklin said, partner with the private sector, and then let the private sector be involved, especially when we are designing curriculums or even delivering training. You see, yeah, we have what we call here in Ghana the internship, but I can tell you that it's 60% effective because a lot of the people go to the companies and it's like the skills they are coming, what they're even studying has nothing to do with the company. So they just come internship every morning, come and go and buy your pogari and come, and that is it. They finish and then they say, I have done internship. But then we should really look into that. The reason is that because the private sector is not involved in designing the curriculum, it's like you are training the people to just come and sit there. This is where you have people leaving school who cannot even use Microsoft Word to write a letter. But they come to a hub, which is an innovation hub who does almost everything on computer. They don't know anything. So what would Gideon and Co do? Send them to buy wache and things as you like what eating. So this is a problem we are facing. So the private sector should be involved. Like Franklin said, not only involved, but also lead it. That these are the skills we need, and let us involve. Once a while, private sector go. I have been going to about 5 universities once a while to do guest lecture, and we talk about the skills that are needed. These things are working because most of them are rethinking whatever they are learning. Also, integrating pre-employment support activities such as the career guidance, well-based learning coaching, as NEIP is doing. And this is amazing. We all need to come out. If you are here, you are a private sector person, let your CSR, your corporate social responsibility, part of it, be teaching these our young people certain things about what they need to know, the skills they need to acquire. The last one will be the promoting the social inclusion initiative to improve access to credit management training for women entrepreneurs and persons living with disability. You would see that we are talking about tech, but how many women are there? Just a few. But tech is not only for guys. So, and these are the skills where now people are likely to even get jobs. So we need to look at how we can promote that social inclusion by integrating these women and giving them the needed skills. Finally, our formal educational curriculum needs overhauling. We've been talking about this. So at the end of the day, we end up talking, but nothing is happening. You cannot churn out people who only chew and go and pour, and you want them to be technically abreast with work. I have been to school. By God's grace, I did computer science, actually first-class computer science graduate. So I had a bit of skills. But I know my colleagues who even went to the same computer, we sit in the same computer science class. Since I know they still know they get job because, sorry for using that, the picture. But because the fact is that they were not trained in a way to even be entrepreneurial, to have that skill. Okay, we attend how to program, fine. Now, let me not even talk about only IT. There are so many other courses in school that you only go to know what is economics. It is there, that is it. Then I come and say I'm an economist. Economist for where? You just want to learn what is economics, Adam Smith and Co. most of our young people have been to school to do economics, apart from Baumia, which I can respect as one of the biggest person in Ghana with economic knowledge. The rest is, we'll talk about that one later, before Franklin started.
Of course. Thank you very much for your point of view and for those powerful points as well. So we have 2 more questions or 2 more topics to go. The next one, based on the Ghana innovation ecosystem, what model of talent development do you foresee to have better impacts? So what model of talent development do you foresee to have better impacts, looking at the Ghana innovation ecosystem? Mr. Franklin, let's begin with you.
All right. So looking at the Ghana innovation ecosystem, one of the key things I have realized, even from my line of work and working with the various teams, the hubs in the space, just organizing one day training with some fried rice and chicken doesn't really make our people build great talents. It's a systematic. That's why I like the hatchery program organized by Hyperspace, though that is for startups. But you can see that though, because it was for startups, it's a systematic plan to move somebody from idea stage up to the time the business is in the market and help them also to properly integrate into the market and take off properly. So for a model to work, to build great talent within the innovation space, we need to begin to identify people who have the interest. Once we identify those who have the interest, then we begin to have a structured model, which is more practical than theoretical. And with this practical, they go through some models which may be theoretical, then you introduce them to the practice. Then you let them go through mentorship with more seasoned and experienced people in the space. Then they learn also from the mentors. Once they go through that structure, that model, they are practically imbibed with the skills that they need to also begin to think and create. This is how we can be able to build more sustainable, and classroom alone will not be able to teach you these things. Yeah. That's why the STEM schools are important, but it should not end there when they go through the structured programs in the STEM schools. We need them to be assigned to right mentors, to guide them practically, to be able to ensure that they can be rightly trained. This is how we can get the best out of them in the ecosystem. We need to begin to develop a more sustainable model than to just go for fun, and that looks at 2-3 days training, and we think that we have built experts into the community. Let's have a sustainability plan. So we are drawing up a program, have it a whole end-to-end program, so that if funder A will get you to get the innovators to this level, funder B, you let them know that this is where funder A got you to. So there's a continuum. You don't go for another grant that also begin to create another beginners. You always end up creating only beginners who have not gone through the entire process to the end. And this is how we can be able to properly structure and build great talent within the innovation space.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Mr. Sharif, do you have something to add?
Yes, this I completely love the way Franklin addressed this, and I know that's his area. So, but just to add up, it's quite a complex question. However, one of the possible model of talent development for innovation is the talent mobility model. So this involves creating a talent marketplace within an organization that allows for the employers to self-promote their skills, access to learning and develop opportunities, and move across different projects and the roles, like you assign them different roles, different projects, let them learn. Also, if Gideon was in charge of, let's say, innovation, then the next coming 2 years, he moved to policy. So this way they can be able to, sell themselves and be able to adapt to some of the skills. This model can foster the growth of the mindset, increase employer engagement, retention, and then also as relates skill development. Another possible model is that the people development model, which involves the redesigning the learning and development programs to align with the needs of the labor market and then the future of work. This model may require the private sector to be involved, integrating pre-employment support. A lot of private sector, when you come, in as much as we complain that we don't really have the right skills to employ, but sometimes I also believe that you can train the young person the right skills. If the person comes proven with ability, you pick the person and give them pre-employment training. You just don't say, go, 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 go. You can't do this and that. Is a no, allow them and train them. This way, we would be able to support, build that talent we need for the innovation. If not, a lot of our young people, by virtue of the training they receive, may not be able to do it. So yes, let me leave it here. Yeah.
All right, thank you to our panelists. Really enjoyed the discussion. Due to our time, we'll end here. But before we do, are there any final words from you, Mr. Franklin, Mr. Sheriff? Do you have any final words for us before we move on to the next panel discussion?
All right, thank you very much, Pina, and thank you, Hyperspace and AfriConEu for the invitation for us to contribute to this. We have a burning desire to ensure that we create a very great enabling environment. One thing I like about what is happening now, those of us now in most of the places where we are driving for the change in the innovation are not typical civil servants who are just doing it for the pay, but we have a heart for it. And I can mention a team from the side of Accra Digital Center, a team from the side of Ministry of Communication, a team from the side of Mercy, NEIP. We keep meeting, and through the support of the German government and also the Israeli government, we form a trilateral cooperation between Ghana, Israel, and the Ghana, Israel, and the German government, together with the key ministries and departments and agencies that concern itself with the innovation space in Ghana. We've met a number of times and key things have been developed. And fortunately, our agenda is being driven and spearheaded by the Vice President himself. So we are getting a speed of approval for a number of things that we are championing. And this is, for me, one of the best things I've seen. And we are working hard to push that within the next couple of few years, Ghana can be able to lead the pack in the innovation ecosystem in Ghana. And let our private sector team also work closely with governments. Government is not an enemy. Jack Ma said that you can go to bed with the government, but don't have intercourse. That's from Jack Ma. But let's work together, hand in hand, as organizations and build our ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin. Mr. Sharif?
Yes, let's work together. Like Franklin said, we need government. Apologies, I'm in the dining restaurant, so you may hear some noise at the background. So for me, my last words is that my brother Franklin have said it all. What I would want to see is that, first of all, to thank the organizers for this opportunity. We need to have these regular discussions, how we can, as the people, build our innovation ecosystem in Ghana. A lot of times when you go out, you tell you Ghana has a very strong, mature ecosystem. It's true, but then we need to build it more. So I love the collaboration, and I would like to employ and encourage that we can further cement this with EU, the rest of the team and EU. What you're doing is amazing. One of the key ways we could use to be able to create a strong ecosystem stakeholder platform is that we can be able to create collaborations among these ecosystem actors. This could be, we have forums, you know, a website, anything that can really allow us to be sharing information, to come together as ecosystem stakeholders. You know, we can host events such like this. You know, how about we having the Ghana Innovation Ecosystem Stakeholders Conference? Or how about we having the Africa Innovation Ecosystem Stakeholder Conference? These are some of the ideas. And I also think that providing the funding and the support, NEIP has been doing amazingly well. The development partners like EU can also come in to support this ecosystem stakeholders to be able to provide whatever services they are giving. And I think that largely for us as a private sector actors and leaders, we need to understand that these three pillars, together we can be able to solve our problem. That is the government, the private sector, and the development partners. We have the EU and other organizations. We have the NEIP and the rest who are government entities. And we have the trade associations like the Ghana Chamber of Young Entrepreneurs, the hub networks, who are also on the other side representing the interests of their members. So let us work together. And I love what NEIP has been doing, and I hope that they can pick it up and do more of this. So this is what I'll say. Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's been a lovely one. Unfortunately, I was only against my brother, frankly. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Franklin, go ahead.
I said it's always nice working with Sheriff.
Oh, yeah, I could see the dynamics, and it was lovely to have you both on our panel. Thank you so much for sharing your valuable insights with us today. We really, really learned a lot. I did, and I'm sure the audience also did. So now we have had the perspective of policymakers, both private, both government. Now we want to go to startups and hub leaders to also see what their perspective or their perspectives are on these topics we've just discussed with the policymakers. So we would like to invite Ms. Naomi Kokro, we would like to invite Mr. Samuel, we would like to invite Mr. George to briefly just introduce themselves, give us a background so we can delve into the same topics or the same questions we just discussed with the policymakers. We want to have different perspectives on the same issues. So I can see Ms. Naomi smiling and all. So I'll begin with her. Please give us a brief introduction or background and let's move on.
Thank you, Akua. Please, can you hear me?
Yes, you're very audible.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Naomi. Most people call me Mame Kaya. I have over 15 years of experience in marketing with focus on social media marketing and project coordination. And I also run an agri-tech business called the Kaya Groceries, where we help busy people to shop for foodstuffs from the market. So that is Naomi. Thank you.
Nice. I like how brief this was. Please, let's all keep it brief and moving. She's still smiling. One of the things I love about her. Okay, so please let's move on to Mr. Samuel. If we have Mr. Samuel around, brief introduction. Hello.
Yes, so it's still what, morning? Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Samuel Abuaje. Call me AB Sam if you like. So I lead a team at Wheezy Innovation Hub, aka Wheezy Academy. So essentially, we support young people to develop ideas. We give skills to young people. And our mission is to spearhead digital innovation in Africa, essentially. So I've been in the development space, in the training, entrepreneurship space for quite a decade and a half, if you like. So it's something that we've been doing for a while, and I hope that we can share a few ideas as we get into this discussion. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome, and thank you for being here today. Mr. George?
Thank you very much. So this is George Nchubo. So I work with the Agrico Hub. We are located in the Bono East region. And then we are more focused on entrepreneurship development and also promoting digital innovation. And we have been doing this for the past 4 to 5 years. I'm also with the Ghana House Network as the Director of Finance. So mainly personally, I am an entrepreneurship development consultant, and that's what I do. I think for the sake of time, that's what I want to say. Thank you.
All right, lovely. So let's begin. We've heard from the policymakers. We've had a lot of policies, going about, but you are on the ground. So you feel whatever outcome, is derived from those policies. So I would like to ask that what are the existing policies in Ghana that supports the development of innovative solutions in the digital innovation space? What have you felt? Let's begin with Mr. Samuel. What have you felt?
Good. I think I like the last bit of your question. It's not just about it. So when the gentleman from MESTI was talking, I got to know that we indeed have a lot of policies around that cover government institutions, policies that cover maybe the private sector, and also the innovation space. I saw even digital economy policy and all that. But the question is, how have we felt these policies? And for me, it's almost negligible, if I would say. Yes, there are policies, some are drafts, some are still on paper. Even if the policies are made, there is no effort to propagate it so that those who are championing local innovation, we get to know it so that we can support our startups. So I know there are policies, but as to their effects, I can hardly say not that much can be said. Typical example, I think about 2 years ago, so the government said that if you are running a business and you are under 40 or so, you are exempted from tax. There's this tax policy based on age, based on location and all that. So I was doing something, I went to the GRA on some tax issues and I asked them about that. And believe you me, they had no idea that anything like that existed. They had no idea that there are startups and what these startups do. They all consider any business as a business, So the policy may be fine, it will be read nicely in an auditorium, but on the ground, there leaves much to be desired.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're driving at. Mr. George, can you add something to that?
All right, thank you very much. For me, I see it as something that is emerging in our part of the world, although innovation has been with us for some time. I remember in 2021, when we were returning from AFLAB's annual gathering in Abuja, we met two parliamentarians, one from the majority, one from the minority side, and they were asking us, what do we do? And we were telling them that, we are managers of innovation hubs. And they were like, what is it? Like the way they actually appreciated what we were saying, it means that indeed they are not aware of hubs and what we do, how are we supporting startups. So if people who actually influence policy do not even understand what we are doing in the innovation space, maybe something that comes up with respect to we the promoters of innovation, they may not prioritize it because it is not in the mainstream political development of Ghana. So I believe it will require more of advocacy, it will require more of engagement. I'm happy we have an agency like NEIP. These are more youth-focused agency that are pushing the adoption and integration of innovation across the country. I was happy the last time Mr. Franklin and the team came to Techiman. So they will say all the way to Techiman to interact with us and to see what we are doing. These are things that we are looking at. So for me, I wouldn't say we are not doing much, but I think it's a matter of process. It's about time that we get to realize that the young people like Sharif and his team pushing entrepreneurship across the entire country. These are young people who can actually drive innovation. So it's important that we accept that we are not doing bad, just that we need to advocate more. I'm happy this engagement is going on. So as we advocate more, it will help us to be able to actually bring out some of the issues. Because, for instance, you look at some of the various policies and programs that are available. How many people have even seen the science and technology and innovation policy. How many people have seen that? How many people have read the GMPC Act and the various acts, various programs and policies that are there to support and promote innovation? So it's a matter of bringing the information out there, letting the people know the rights and responsibilities in the innovation space. And I think that will actually help us to be able to promote, because the challenges are there, but I think with that universal effort and collective effort to be able to promote it. Let's see how the startup bill comes up and supports startups as well. So we are getting there gradually.
All right, thank you very much. So now from the perspective of a startup, let's see what Kaya has to say. So Mami Kaya, what do you have to say on this particular topic?
Thank you, Pina. I think AB and George has said most of it. Actually, when Franklin and Mr. Femi and the others were talking, I was here and I was like, are these policies, all these plenty policies, where are they? Who are the implementers? Where are they being implemented? Which startups are enjoying some of these policies? Because aside NEIP and the COVID program that I am mostly aware of, most of the other ones I'm not even aware of. And before this discussion, I also went out and started asking other startups about some of these policies. And it seems like we are in Ghana, but we don't know what is going on. So I think a lot can be done. A lot can be done. But for now, I'll use your own words. We are not feeling it. We are not.
All right. All right. Mamika says we are not feeling it. All right. But in the chat, I see that Mr. Franklin has sent something that the tax exemption from the Tax Amendments Act is really working. It is for startups or entrepreneurs between 18 to 35 years. So I'm beginning to see a gap. The policymakers know about the policies, but the hub leaders and the startups do not know about it. Okay, so there's a gap. So let's go on. We'll address that in other questions to come. Please, if you are in the audience and you want to ask a question or you have any opinions, please drop them in the chat. Because of our time, we can't take questions whilst we are doing the discussion, but after we'll give you the floor to ask your questions and then give your opinions. So please just drop them in the chat or put them down somewhere and then we can go on. All right, so let's move on to the next. So we talked about investor interest. Are there any policies you've seen or heard or felt? I like to use felt because the policies are there, but are we feeling it on the ground? So are there any policies you've seen or heard or felt that protects or seeks to protect investor interest in Ghana? Let's begin with Mr. Samuel.
Yes, so coming back, yes, so my friend, yes, so Franklin is saying that it's indeed there, but unfortunately my test, the person I asked never knew, had no idea what it was, so I'm not sure where we have to begin, but I also realized that there is a gap, and I don't even know the process, so yeah. But the question of investor interest, I know that Ghana is doing a lot. I must be honest with you, especially the year of return and beyond the year of return. It's been quite massive, and you can't take that from the government. It's quite commendable. I see a lot of people who even decide that they want to relocate to Ghana and all that. So on the general front, I think we are doing well. And GIPC, for example, is also doing quite a lot. But with respect to my space, technology and innovation hubs, again, we are not seeing a lot of investment from where I sit. Now, we hear, well, this could be to a number of reasons. Most of the investments that we hear about usually are, you see that this fintech has raised this amount of money. Now, when you check the background, you realize that the people are only Ghanaians, but living in the US, right? Or they went to Harvard, Stanford, and they are trying to do something in Ghana, but it's not that they really have local roots, as it were. Others too who are receiving funding are not typically or wholly Ghanaian businesses. Ghanaian businesses, but with foreign partners and the like. But in terms of the people that we support on a daily basis, investor interest is not high, and it's for varied reasons. I don't think we have a very robust structure here. Again, the policy bit to, so there's an experience that I have. Again, you know, if you are registering a business, for example, about 0.5% or so, 0.5 or 0.25% should be deposited, as they say. So if I say that, okay, my investment capital is 10,000 Ghana cedis, no problem. Even if I say 5,000, the government don't have any problem. So it means I have to have about 25 cedis. So it comes as part of the fee that is taken. Now we have a policy that says that if you have an external investor, the same 0.5% or 0.25% applies. But here is the kicker. The minimum investment that an outside investor can bring is $1 million. And I'm talking about someone who says, so we had a business that we were running with a Canadian, and we had to register in our name and also in their name, but because they are not Ghanaians. Now that's what he says. So the minimum is $1 million. So he calculates 0.5% of $1 million. And that's about what? $25,000 or so. So then in the end, it just didn't work out. So on the investor front, I know a lot is going on, but as I say, in my typical space, I know some fintechs, I know like Farmerline, yes, from Kumasi, and a few others are getting investment, but it hasn't become mainstream yet. And I feel that our structures are not there, our startups are not well developed, the ecosystem is not strong enough, such that when an investor invests in a startup and they want to find them, they will know where to find them. You know, so I think we are still very young in our development, and I feel we haven't gotten there yet.
All right, so we are not there yet. Mr. George, what do you think? Are we there?
We will get there, but we are not there, as you said, because for instance, when you interact with the startups we have around, you could see that most of them are not even investor ready with respect to the various investment tickets available. Sometimes you are looking at startups that are even ready to even position themselves for an investment like, let's say, $100,000. That one quite is difficult. Sometimes you are looking for people who can take like $1 million. A few of them are ready to go into that. So I would be happy that there's a program and a policy like what the NEIP is doing, so that they will actually that will support innovation to actually go for some of these big ticket funds. If you look at the report by the report, you will see that out of the 3.3 billion the startups, fintechs, tech startups, Ghana is just having just about 4.5%. You understand, Nigeria 28%, Egypt and stuff like that. But why are we not attracting such
Hello.
And it's like they have gotten millions, you know. Do they have the financial statement and the various formalization requirements? You know, those are things that will actually help us to be able to attract the investment, because the investment requirements of our startups are so small that GMPC will not even count it as part of the investment that is coming in. Are you getting the point? So for me, it's a matter of we getting to know our startups and preparing them well. Currently, our hub, we are doing some needs assessments on startups. And interestingly, most of the startups that are actually throwing in their, filling that survey are saying that they have not received any support aside training from the various enterprise support agencies, including GEA, the various hubs, NEIP, and stuff like that. For NEIP, at least I remember some time back, they have been supporting some startups. But the issue is that at what rate and how much involved. And it's also because the startups are not mostly ready. So that is the gap. And I think it's about time that the innovation hubs will be in that position and have that capacity to build startups to be investor ready. And in that case, we will start talking about the investment itself. Else, it will be just a conversation. Thank you.
All right. So Mr. Franklin is giving us some interesting tips in the chat. I would quickly go to Mamikaya so that we can come back to Mr. Franklin. I want him to tell us. I like the tips that are going on in the chat, and it will be a bonus for the startups on the call today to know some of these things. I want them to know. So please, Ms. Kokro, can you tell us your opinion on this investments in investor?
So when it comes to this investor readiness and investment with regards to startups, I want to start it from this angle. Now, we take a typical Ghanaian startup or a typical Ghanaian who wants to start something. By the time you go through all the stress of going to school and every other thing, and you are ready to enter into the entrepreneurship world or the innovative world and start something, you are already between 30 to 35 years. Now, when these investors are coming in, they come in with their clauses. They are looking for Ghanaians who are doing their businesses. We use the word startup, who are between the ages of 25 to 35 years. Not the cap is 35 years. And then they will bring sometimes revenue cap and among other stuff. Let's ask ourselves, let me ask my other colleagues. They are into the running of the hubs. How many startups can we really say that age gap will not affect them? Number one, when they are fully aware to take on some of these investments, and they actually have the capacity to take on some of these investments. It's about time, I feel, that as Ghanaians, we should also try and set our own,
Not sure if it's only my network.
No, it's not yours. It's hers. Well,
for us to define the startup. Oh, I was talking on.
Yeah,
hello?
Yeah, go ahead. You were breaking up a bit, but
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the question is, when these investment opportunities are in, how many of us startups are even ready for it? With regards to age, with regards to the amount of money, how many startups, I'm bringing it from the startup perspective, how many startups have reached that perspective of taking on this huge money for their businesses? Are we even ready for these kind of innovative challenges? So much that if I am doing just a grocery shopping services, I am willing, or I have a vision that I want to really expand it in such a way that there will be these mechanisms that I can add some innovativeness in it. We, the startups, on one hand, we are looking at, something to keep us going. Something, yes, we want to expand, but we are not looking at expanding beyond a certain reach. Now, when the hubs are also coming in, we see the hubs also taking in the approach of the investors. The age. As I'm sitting here, age has catched me. With regards to Kaya, there are lots of opportunities that it is now that I understand some of these politics. It is now that I understand some of these innovative issues that I want to, how do I say, bring it to my business. But age has catched me. So when AB Sam or Wheezy Academy is bringing a program, and I want to apply, I cannot apply because I am above 35 years. When George or AfriConEu is also doing something, I can't apply. Meanwhile, this is now that my business is in the phase of expansion. This is now my business needs some of these investment. How do we go about it? So from the startup perspective, we the startups, we are not up there. The age, Franklin, I see your comments. The age thing is really affecting us, and we are not able to also bring our businesses to the level that we want to really take on $100,000. Come on. There was a time, there was this funding, and I talked to Mr. Gideon Brefo, and I think it was like $1 million. And I was like, hey, what am I going to use it for? I didn't even get it. Now, how are they going to conscientize we, the startups, to understand that if you want to get some of these funding, this is the ABC things that you need to do in order to be investor ready? Because investor ready comes in levels. This is where I will end. Investor ready comes in levels. I am investor ready, but I am not investor ready for a $1 million project, probably just 100,000 project. So how can this be solved? Thank you.
Well, I like the passion behind that submission. You can feel the passion behind that, and we understand that it's something that she's feeling. Yes, that is why she's so passionate about it. But let's quickly digress. I want to go to Mr. Franklin. He's talking about the tax system Mr. Summer was talking about earlier in the chat. Mr. Franklin, can you enlighten us quickly so that it's like a bonus point for the startups on the call who want to access some of these?
Thank you, Pina. This is sorry for intruding in your panel discussion. You see, I agree with Sam and all of you, all the panelists, that government has not done well with some of the policies, especially with communication and education and sensitization around a number of these policies. So for me, that is clear, because we've also shown for this in a number of policy meetings. We've told them that we are not doing well in areas of communicating to the public. Sometimes there are some few publications that are done, launching it, bringing that into the newspapers here and there and talking about it. But with the issue of the tax exemption, which we started working on from 2018 and finally accepted in 2019, the plan, every platform that I have found myself or NEIP, we've talked about it. We've done some public announcements. Now, GRA last year started even making some radio announcements on this tax amendment from the Tax Amendment Act for the exemptions for young people between 18 to 35. We're fighting for a lot of businesses, but they gave us only exemptions for 8 sectors. And these exemptions are in the area of manufacturing, ICT. So any business related to manufacturing, any business related to information communication technology, agro-processing, energy production, waste processing, tourism and arts, horticulture and medicinal plants. Even with this 8, we can encapsulate quite a number of businesses within these 8 sectors that were granted exemptions to give to the startups. When we started, we started announcing, people were bringing their forms here, then NEIP puts a cover letter to it. And there are some processes NEIP will do for you if you are not taking it directly. So those processes, the department that was taking care of it was taking, I think, around 300 cities or 500 cities. And they do everything for you. Then it goes to the GRA, and GRA approves it. You are invited, you go for your letter from GRA. So, but you have to submit the profile of the company, because the GRA wants to be sure exactly what your business objective are, what you are doing, so they can know the sector classification. So your business profile, your company registration certificates, and your photocopy of your national ID card, then also photocopies of your business operating permit. The reason why they are checking your operating permit is that, are you just coming for tax exemption because you are you just don't want to pay tax, or even amidst where you are operating, you are paying even the business operating permit. So you are asked to submit your business operating permit, that if you're in KMA if you are in AMA, whichever municipal or district or metropolitan that you find yourself in, you show your business operating permit, your photocopy of your business national ID cards, business registration. Then you submit an application letter requesting for exemption of tax. We also add a cover letter to it and submitted. Sometimes within 3 weeks, you can get results for your tax exemption within 3 weeks. So we have had a number of young people who have come here and we have completed their tax exemption for them.
All right.
So functioning. Now you can move to any GRA districts without coming to any IP. You can move to any district of GRA and start the process. But if you are facing challenges, let us know. Any IP will give you a cover letter. But the people who have been doing it, they have been coming to our office. Some are even in the north. They send their document via email. We print them here. We add a cover letter to it, and the team. We have a designated office for tax exemption that works on it. Then it's a process. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin, for giving us those insights. Those are some really, really interesting nuggets. It's a bonus, information to all startups on the call today. So, all right, let's come back home. We've gone away, let's come back home. So in the chat, I see that Mr. George is saying that the 35-year cap must be extended to 45 per Naomi's suggestion or submission.
Okay, so when Naomi said age has catched her, I was saying that Naomi, try and introduce young partners into your business, okay? And it doesn't necessarily mean it is only you who can apply. If you have other young partners, they're even holding 2% share in your company, they are liable and they have the power to apply for the exemption on behalf of the company.
Wow,
so
I like
one of the
that.
secrets. Look, when you're applying for funding and the funding has age requirements, please, and you need that funding to escalate, make sure that you have, let your young partners on your team apply. It is not always about Naomi or you. You must bring in other partners. Let's move from sole proprietorship and become company-like.
Okay, so if I may come in here, really suggestions here. Thank you, Franklin. And I think in terms of a government agency that supports startups and innovation ecosystem, I think NEIP comes first. And I pray that they live beyond this government. I don't know if there is a policy or a law to make sure that NEIP stays. There is GEA, but the truth is that GEA serves a different market. This maybe it's on the sidelines, but I feel that it's something that we should be looking at. But for me, back to the age thing, I think about it, I'm like, is that what applies everywhere? Naomi was saying something that we play to the gallery of these funders, and then we also say if you are not between this age, you don't get it. Okay, so this is what I'm looking at it. This age thing, I think the whole idea is that we want to support young people. That's well and good. So if EU is bringing funding, they say, okay, the youth, and this is how they've defined the youth. And we have to go in that direction. But we should look at rather detecting the pace instead of they detecting the pace, because we know our situation here better. Yeah. Most young entrepreneurs are accidental entrepreneurs, right? It's because they were looking for work, they didn't get a job, so they say, okay, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to try this, I want to do this. Those who are really, truly entrepreneurs, I mean, if wherever you go, when people want to venture into entrepreneurship, usually it's when they are at the peak of their career, you know, mid or when they are exiting corporate. Yes. So when they get into the startup world, they come with a lot of experience, skill-wise. They have a lot of network. 3, they also have at least the funding to push things. But in Africa, the person has completed school and he's starting a business. He even doesn't have what he has to feed on.
The mother is feeding him.
Your mother is feeding you, you know. So when he gets the funding, child man must survive.
You have to chop some.
Yes, he has to chop some. I mean, and this is reality that we just forget. And we expect that you're giving a person $10,000 and everything should go into the business. How do they survive? They've been doing this for 2 years, 3 years. No work, no money from anywhere. So in the end, they will have to spend part of the money and we don't achieve what is supposed to be achieved. But we know this situation better. And when programs are being designed and we are involved, these are issues we have to bring up so that they are considered in the interventions. Very key.
Great.
Yes. Again, the idea of the age restriction. I mean, I think Franklin and others are offering some really, what I would say, smart ways of going about it. Well and good. But again, we should also bring this into the discussion. People who are 40 years, 45 years, 50 years, they come with a lot of experience. And it is only in Africa that we consider startups as being undertaken by young people.
Yeah.
You know, so I think it's something that we should also let the others know. But here's the thing. If someone is funding you, they say that we want to support people within this age. I think we can make our voice heard in a way. We have to let them understand our ecosystem better, our situation better. Like Naomi is saying, maybe in the past 5 years, she's been trying something. She's been going back and forth. And now that she's past 35, she's seeing top. And every opportunity, she's not able to access it. It's gone in a way, you know. And usually it's when you are 35, 40, you have a richer network, you have more resources, can do a lot. So if these policies come in to ease you of the pressure, it helps a lot. For me, I think that a good way to go about this is to go by the Ghana Startup Bill, their definition of a startup. You know, they make a very intelligent distinction between a startup and an SME. And for you to be a startup, there is a registration process.
Yeah, startup label
process that you need to go through. So it doesn't matter whether you are 20 years or you are 40 years. Once you go through that process, they look at some things to decide that you are startup within this space. And that should qualify you. Otherwise, these young people who are 25, 30, they are not seeing top. So now they are not even getting any revenue. So this tax exemption thing is not very relevant to them. But someone like Naomi, who is beyond 35, she needs it the most. Yet she have it. You know, so I think these are some of the things we have to think about and see how we can navigate around. I think it's a good policy. It's commendable. And I tend to think that it was NEIP that pushed this. That is why Franklin is quicker to respond. He's able to give all the information, you know. And I think with this, if maybe we're collaborating with Ghana Hubs Network, with other startup networks to make this known, it will really help. But these are my ideas around the issue.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Samo. We've gone a bit far from home, but I like the points being given here. And I like the suggestion that was given to Naomi. That's a smart way to go about the whole funding age gap thing. It's very interesting. Let's come back to home. All right, so this one goes to Naomi again, since she's the startup here. Are there any policies you would like to, are there policy expectations that you have that, or let me ask it this way, as a startup, what are some of your policy expectations that have not been met by, let me say, the government of Ghana? Any policy? I think Naomi has frozen. All right, thanks to our internet. Okay. Oh, can you hear us?
The network is unstable. I don't know. Can you repeat the question, or you can go ahead and if we fix it, then
anyway, let me ask Mr. George, since you are a hub leader, Are there any policy expectations you have that haven't been met yet?
All right, thank you very much. I think for me, looking at the component of the Ghana Startup Act, I wish it comes faster. At least for where I sit with the Ghana House Network, I'm privy to the document, so I know how it's going to actually help our startups. The last time we went to Nigeria, this has been passed. I'm sure Sharif will bear me out with that. So if we are able to push it out, it's going to address most of these issues that we are dealing with. So it should come quickly, so that these startups will be able to easily settle. Because, for instance, you are a startup and you want to have to go to the various compliance levels. It becomes frustrating because, like my brother Sam was saying, sometimes you are only depending on that struggling startup. And how do you also make money to go through the various registration and stuff like that? Mr. Franklin was talking about the various tax exemptions and the strategy that we can use. But you see, the truth is that a typical startup is even afraid of GRA vehicle. They see GRA vehicle and they want to run because they think they're going to tax them and stuff like that. So more also tax education. How many of us are aware of the various tax issues, even the exemptions? Like, until this platform, you may not have even known that there's these exemptions that are available. Yes, I've heard of it before, but these are things that I think NELP can push more. Issues of tax, issues of compliance, issues of formalization, investment readiness. If we are able to do that, most of our startups are cottage firms. You understand? Very basic. Most of them are very basic. You run incubator programs, and they will come and they are producing. Maybe some of them are producing gari processing. Basic startups. You understand? And most of them are almost doing the same things. They are not doing sobolo, putting in a bottle, like basic things. And these things will not give us a big ticket funds that we talk about. So for me, I think it's important we look at going to the basis, looking at issues of taxation, issues of formalization, and also passing the startup bill. I think for some time now, Sharif, you are still here. What is happening? Maybe Mr. Franklin, I will not put him mad because of where he is. But Sharif, what is happening? I say the thing has been halted for some time. Like I said, from where I sit, I can feel that you guys you are on break. So these are things that for me, I am expecting. And if it comes, our startups will be able to actually get the needed feeds. And then also my last expectation is the fact that, NELP is doing something, they're cooking something. And I think if it comes to light, and I know it will come soon, it's actually going to give the House the capacity to be able to focus on their core areas so that they know that, okay, they have this fund that is helping them to be sustainable. Therefore, they will focus on their core mandate and be able to support the right startups that are ready so that we can count. Even if you are counting, let's say, 10 startups in every region, you can see the replicating effect on it. So, but more importantly, the Ghana Startup Bill is what I'm looking up to. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Naomi keeps dropping, so I don't.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so quickly, they said it's unstable. Let me see if I can just quickly go. So I think one policy that I am looking at that as a startup is supposed to be, I want to see more action on it, has to do with the patent, because sometimes the patent, a policy on patent, which allows us as startups and our ideas for, that this is yours, you own it, because it's very, very expensive. I know that I would have loved to actually patent this Kaya app idea, the app itself, among others, the idea and the concepts and everything, but it's very, very expensive. And the processes are a lot. I never get to understand it fully. But what if there is a policy that helps startups, policies directed towards just startups to help us to get these ideas and own these ideas? There was a time somebody contacted me and told me that, Another person has started a similar initiative in Accra, and the person is calling it Kaya. That means that the Kaya, the only difference was the colors, but the person says his also called Kaya, and mine is Kaya Up Groceries. And so imagine that. But if there was a policy that can help me as a startup to patent this idea of Kaya Up, everything that has to do with it, and it doesn't have to be that expensive. We all know it's very expensive. It's expensive. The processes are cumbersome. It just deters us from even going further. I don't know if I'm still audible because I can't see anything. Yeah, so I think I'll just end it here because I see AB nodding. So maybe you can consider because I can't see you all. I can't hear anything.
All right, please continue for her.
Yes. I think we heard you loud and clear, and I share a lot of what you are saying. Maybe I'll share something with you. There is this book being launched on intellectual property law. So probably it's something that you may be interested in at KNUST. Yeah, but on to the point of my expectations, what policy I would like to have or see. I'll essentially talk about 3. So the first one is actually policy. Then the other two are things that so the first one is business registration in Ghana. I know years back there was this conversation that was started by SE Ghana or so, SE Ghana, Social Enterprise Ghana. And the idea was that, if you are registering a business, we have limited by liability, limited by guarantee, and then enterprise and a partnership. Now, there are varying degrees of that with the New Companies Act. But unfortunately, something that we were expecting to see from the point of view of innovation actors, we didn't see. We wanted to have a bridge between limited by guarantee and limited by liability. Now, if I'm registering my hub, I have to say that I'm NGO, or I have to say that I am a profit-making company, But there was this hybrid that we're looking for, a social enterprise, where there is a merging between the two. But that option didn't really come out. So if you are registering a business now, you are registering a business as a social enterprise. And sometimes the kind of work that even our startups do, some are purely social enterprise, but you have to register as an NGO with its own laws, some of which may not favor you. And if you also register as limited by shares, some laws too don't favor you. So that is one. Secondly, I'll add my voice to what my other panelists said regarding the Ghana startup bill. I think it's been long in coming. It's something that I was looking forward to, but I think the whole of this year I haven't heard anything. I think it addresses a lot of issues for us to understand what a startup is, because what happens is that some of the interventions that even come up, it's not for startup. A startup is different from an SME. Our needs are different. Usually startup within our space, we don't support ideas that have to do with trade, or someone is going to bring goods someone is going to import goods to sell clothing. No, that is typical SME. But startups, the concept is quite different. So I feel that if we have the Ghana Startup Bill, it's going to help a lot. And for me, thirdly, is again, this is something that my colleague George also mentioned, what NEIP is doing, which I'm equally passionate about. So what NEIP is trying to do is also to do an ecosystem mapping, trying to understand the hubs across the nation, put all of them on a map with their specific location, but more importantly, classify them according to their expertise, right? So that if something is coming up and it's in the agri space, the truth is that we don't have the expertise for it, right? But we are also building an ecosystem where we don't have specialized expertise, and everybody is doing everything, as we say in Ghana. but we should be able to identify hubs with specific expertise that can do specific things, right? So I believe that what they are doing, if it goes well, and from the work that they are doing, it should bring a lot of sanity into the system. We also have a lot of mushroom hubs because someone has heard that there is money going on. They say that they have a hub, only to go there, find them, and then they say that, oh, it's virtual, we don't have a space. Oh, then the excuses start coming and all that, So I feel that if we are not credible enough, if we don't have the competence, if we don't know what we are doing ourselves, we will not be in a better position to support these startups. So I think the effort that NEIP is undertaking is very laudable. And I really hope that they can double up the steps so that we have something more comprehensive. And especially coming from a government agency, I have a feeling that it's going to get that general appeal or general acceptance. It's not like we decided to do an ecosystem mapping. This is really done by a government agency. So it's going to be adopted in a sense, and I hope it's very comprehensive. And with that, I feel that we are still in the beginning stages, but it will start taking us some point. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We are having such a lovely discussion, but unfortunately our time is running against us. So I would like us to consider the very last question on our sample questions list. This question, I would like to pull Mr. Franklin and Mr. Sheriff into this so that we all answer this question. I would like some perspectives on this question. So how can we engage innovation ecosystem stakeholders in Ghana, Europe, and other African countries to interact? This is very important because the AfriConEu project is dealing with 4 African partners and European partners as well. So how do we do this? How can we engage innovation ecosystem stakeholders in Ghana, in Europe, and in other African countries? So who do I begin? In fact, who wants to begin? Let me put it down.
Okay, so let me, I see a bigger view also from my side. So let me briefly tackle. I find myself on a task force for innovation in Africa, and we have some team members coming from Europe and other places. I think for this activity, we will liaise with all the hubs and also all the players in the ecosystem. Then the founders of AfriConEu, we need to have a sponsor to lead this communication. So that sponsor can bring all of us onto the roundtable for us to have this kind of discussion. Nigeria is bubbling up in their innovation space. Kenyan, Uganda, Tanzania, it's all Egypt, Tunisia, Senegal, Mali, they are all coming up strongly. We need to begin to have that kind of platform. So Hyperspace, you are the mouthpiece of AfriConEu in Ghana. Suggest this, that the government of Ghana is ready to sit on the table with them, okay, for us to make the case for the whole of Ghana. And we can get the government of other countries to sit on the table. And that is where we can begin. From government to government, we can push it from our angle. But we need Hyperspace to push from the angle of development partners. Then, and I'm sure once this communication starts to come, MasterCard will be interested, GIZ will be interested, World Bank will be interested. So that for me, I've been fighting with the development partners about how they enter into a country and find someone walking around in the name of a hub and work with that person thinking that they are working with the whole Ghana. It doesn't work that way. So we need to see this from the bigger platform angle. And I'm sure it is possible and it is doable.
Right. Thank you very much for your perspective. Who are we pouncing on next? Mr. Sheriff, are you here? Let me see. Okay, then let's.
Hello.
Yes. Now.
Okay, so with this topic, from what I would say, based on what Franklin has said, then I believe that there is the need to be intentional about this, trying to bring all these stakeholders together. There needs to be a plan, not just a plan on paper, but a plan that is going to be implemented. That is what is really needed, because most of the time we will hear some of these talks, and at the end of the day, it's just on a paper or in a book somewhere, and it never gets off the table. But then if we want to do this, if we want to bring all these stakeholders from Africa, from Europe, from Ghana to come and sit at the table discussion and bring us together, then there needs to be an intentional effort from each of the stakeholders. Draw up a plan with timelines. This person is doing this. If Hyperspace is going to be the mouthpiece and championing it, if NEIP is going to get the government and get the other stakeholders, when are we doing this? What is the time frame? Who is doing what? Which institutions are we bringing on board? That is what is needed. A detailed plan that is going to leave the table, not just sit on the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. George, what do you think? How can we engage innovation ecosystem?
For me, I think it's important we continue to learn the elements in the ecosystem. For instance, I remember Ghana House Network with support from CAS and GIZ. We embarked on this 25 days of war where we were touring the entire ecosystem across the country, and the issue that came up was so wonderful, and it became a reference document for some policy and programs and stuff like that. So I think it's important we continue to engage. For me, I don't know, maybe if I'm trained, because I'm trained as an M&E person, I always want to touch base with the basics, like, because sometimes in a general terms, it looks like things are getting well, but when you get to the ground, that's where you see the real issues that are happening. So for me, that collaboration, Ghana Hubs is there, Ghana Hubs Network is there. We talk about SC Ghana, the Association of Ghana Startups, Young Entrepreneurs, that integration, so that we can actually get the on-ground experience, so that when we are developing programs and projects, it will resonate with the people. Top-bottom or top-down approach, whereby programs are done at the top and it doesn't have the grassroots element in it. Sometimes you hear of a program that is being run across the country, but you could feel that this thing will not stand because the people and the beneficiaries are not actually in sync with what has been designed. So these are my issues. I believe when we are designing anything and we have that local content in it, the local elements, the local stakeholders in it. For instance, if you are designing a program, national program, then you have representatives from the various regions. They are there, they understand the elements in those places. And when we do that, we'll be able to get the needed impact that we want to create. I'm happy.
Okay. The internet is causing trouble yet again.
I think we need an internet policy.
We do. We do. All right. I think Mr. Samuel will take the last one from you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. I think this has been a very wonderful discussion. I've enjoyed it myself. I've learned from the earlier presentations and presentations. I think what I'll add to, I'll not say much except to reiterate what Franklin said. I feel it's the most practical approach. We are lucky to have a government agency, and usually trying to get a government side is difficult, but we are getting someone who is ready to push on the government front. So if we want to do something practical, he's thrown a challenge. So are we also going to get Hyperspace to push on the EU front? That is what came out of the our deliberation today. We are getting the government to agree to sit down. So we have a government-to-government interaction, really cool. But you see, in all this, I also like what Naomi was saying, but to put together a plan, monitor, he was also talking about monitoring and all that. it needs to be funded. Someone needs to take care of it. So if Naomi is put in charge to do this, she can't be using her time to do that always. And if you say it's voluntary, sometimes you never get a job done. So someone has to fund it some way, somehow. And that has to be taken into consideration. If we want something practical, I think we know. Let's get those involved. We have George here, who also, I can say, represents the Ghana Hub network on this platform. So we can get all these players involved, So if we want to take the conversation further, I think we have the people here. Let's do that. Let's get talking and let's see how we take it up from here.
Thank you all very, very much for all your suggestions and submissions. Actually, the purpose of this roundtable discussion is to bring out such things, policies and the like. So we have the lead for this work package, Buni Hub. I think Promise is still on the call. There will be reports written and we'll take it up and see how it fares. All right. Thank you all so much. I have really enjoyed the panel discussion. I don't want it to end, but due to our time and internet, that's why we have to end. But I would like to go on and on and on and on. I'm sure some people are hungry. But I've enjoyed this. I'm hungry myself, but I would have loved to go on and on and on and on. But due to our time, I don't know if anyone has a question, maybe just one, two, and just direct it to someone specific on the panel. Okay, so it looks like everything that anyone wanted to say was put in the chat, so we do not have questions. There was someone who kept raising his hand. I have forgotten the name. I don't know if the person is still here. Okay, I do not see the person. I don't see the person. All right. So then thank you to all our panelists for sharing their valuable insights with us today. I have learned a lot. I'm sure you have as well. I urge you to take what you've learned today, apply it in your own lives. Let's work together to make a positive impact in our country, in Africa, in the entire world. And I'll leave the stage for Josephine to just wrap up. And I would love to say that we owe you all one. The panelists, you've done such an amazing job, so we owe you one. As to whether I'm speaking on behalf of Harper Space, I'm speaking on my own behalf. We owe you one. Okay, Josephine is here.
Wow. It's really been an intense and insightful session with valuable contributions and input, the sharing of experiences, the recommendations has really been enriching. And thank you all so much for your time, staying through till this time. We really appreciate you so much. To all our panelists, we really appreciate you. Thank you for your active engagement. And we know the outcome of this event would pave a way for positive policy changes in the Ghanaian startup and innovation ecosystem. Thank you all so much for your time. Thanks everyone for your time on the call. Before we all leave, if possible, I would want us to take a group picture, a virtual selfie. If you can turn on your camera, kindly do so for me so that we can take a picture. Thank you. Patrick, I see you. Okay. I see Mohammed. Thank you. Mr. Franklin, nice suit.
Who's taking the picture?
All right.
Who's taking the picture?
So we have media, space. Max. All right, so 3, 2, 1, everyone smile. Okay, the last one. Big smile.
Cheese.
All right.
Oh, someone is now coming in whilst we are taking the picture.
I know, right? All right, thank you all so much for your valuable input. We really, really appreciate your time. And we would end here. As promised, shared in her presentation, you can follow the AfriConEu. You can visit our website, subscribe to the newsletter, and then get all the updates happening with the EU and then the African ecosystem. And also, this event was streamed on YouTube. So you can visit the Hyperspace YouTube page to catch up if you missed on anything. Maybe you couldn't join from the beginning. There had been very, very powerful speech from Mr. Femi, from Mr. Salifu, amongst others. Maybe you missed all those things. You can just go to our YouTube and then catch up. Thank you all so much for your time. It was great having you all. So have a wonderful week.
Enjoy the rest of your
Bye.
week.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, bye, bye.
Promise. I hope you heard all that was said. So
We did. It was amazing. I had an amazing time. Thank you, Harper and team. That was an
I'm
amazing.
glad you joined us. We appreciate you for staying today.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Naomi Koko. She's still smiling.
The internet has come on.
Now that we are ending, your internet is stable. Your house people are doing you. They've let age catch you. Now that we are ending, your internet is stable.
Yes, Vodafone people decided to now allow the internet to work.
Okay, well done.
Have